Chapter 4496. When Nye Tian saw that the purple-robed woman had actually used her bloodline power, he could not help but frown, and his face darkened. He didn't want to pay any attention to the purple-robed woman, but since she was forcing him, he had no choice but to teach her a lesson. Die! At that moment, the purple-robed woman let out a soft cry and swung her sword. The sword's shadow was so sharp that it seemed to freeze the void as it pressed down on Nye Tian. You don't know when to retreat. In the face of the purple-clothed woman's all-out bloodline attack, Nye Tian snorted coldly. The sword aura around him suddenly erupted, and suddenly, the momentum of a stormy sea swept everything. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the violent sword will smash the sword shadows in the void, and at the same time, the woman in purple was forced to retreat again and again. The lady in purple was not weak. She had reached stage 1 heaven perception realm. With the help of her blood meridian power, she could fight against a low-level divine ancestor. Unfortunately, she ran into Nye Tian, who was even more abnormal. You? Puff. The lady in purple retreated for a few hundred meters before she regained her balance. She wanted to say something, but her body trembled and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Nye Tian didn't spare the purple-robed woman any face as he said coldly, "You're too weak. You don't deserve my sword." The lady in purple was the daughter of the ruler of Ice Capital. She was used to being arrogant and thought that everyone had to give in to her. You! The lady in purple was provoked by Nye Tian. She was about to speak, but she almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Just as Nye Tian had thought, she was the princess of the Ice Capital. Normally, anyone who saw her would treat her with respect and would pamper and protect her. Today, she was being looked down upon in front of Nye Tian. How could she tolerate that? You are young, but you talk big. At that moment, a cold sneer echoed out, followed by a wild killing intent that pounced towards Nye Tian like a fierce tiger pouncing down a mountain. Feeling the terrifying pressure, Nye Tian's expression changed abruptly, and he quickly retreated. At the same time, a sharp sword chi shot out, blocking the killing intent. As Nye Tian steadied himself, he saw a white-robed young man standing beside the purple-robed woman with a mountain-like aura. Brother Bo-yi. The lady in purple was happy to see the young man in white. "Ing-er, you step back." The young man in white smiled warmly, signaling Bing-ing-er to step aside. Yes. Bing-ing-er nodded obediently and raised her head to look at Nye Tian with a proud expression as if to say, "You're dead, you little punk." The corners of Nye Tian's mouth couldn't help but twitch as he looked at the white-clothed young man. The young man in white clothes looked older than Bing-ing-er, but his aura was much stronger. Apparently, he was a peerless genius. "Friend, you are not a member of the ghost race in the abyss. Why are you here?" The young man in white called Bo-yi looked at Nye Tian coldly and asked. "I have already told this lady in purple. I don't want to repeat myself." Nye Tian's lips twitched as if he wanted to provoke Bo-yi. "Big brother boy, they've snuck in here with evil intentions." Bing-ing-er shouted, staring at Nye Tian. Bo-yi frowned. The murderous aura on his face became more intense. Nye Tian could see that Bo-yi was a steady person, so he smiled and tried to provoke him again. He could see that this man's strength was not ordinary, so he wanted to force him to make a move. "As you wish." After all, Bo-yi was a young man. No matter how composed he was, he couldn't help but be enraged by Nye Tian's provocation. With a bellow, he took a step forward and unleashed his terrifying spear intent. Nye Tian couldn't help but reveal a smile. Original, this Bo-yi was a spear user. No wonder his aura was so domineering. "Sweeping 8 desolates," Bo-yi shouted and slapped with his palm. His aura shook the sky, pressing down on Nye Tian. He didn't show his spear. Obviously, he was also a conceited person. Good timing. With a faint smile, Nye Tian's sword intent rumbled around him as his sword slashed out in all directions. Boom! The two forces collided, causing the space around them to tremble and almost collapse. Tian's body shook a little. He was forced to take a step back. Reverse Bo-E was like an old tree, not moving an inch. You are a sword user, yet you want to compete with me in force? Are you looking down on me? Bo-E won a little, but he didn't look happy. Instead, he said coldly, Blade spear user, sword user. The so-called blade was forceful, while the sword was sharp. The spear, on the other hand, was both forceful and sharp. It was sharper than the blade, more forceful than the sword. In other words, it was less forceful than the blade, and less sharp than the sword. Tian did not dodge at all and directly clashed head-on with Bo-E, obviously disregarding the difference between sword intent and spear intent. In Bo-Yi's opinion, Tian was obviously looking down on him. Although I am a swordsman, my sword intent is more vigorous than the blade intent of an ordinary swordsman. For you to be able to beat me in terms of vigor by relying on your spear intent, it is truly not simple. Tian smiled faintly and said very sincerely. But his words sounded even more contemptuous to Boyd's ears. Really? Bo-Yi's expression turned cold as the anger in his eyes rose. At the same time, the spear intent around his body surged like a dragon, stirring up tens of thousands of feet of power in the void. This fellow is so strong. Dog Jean couldn't help sighing in admiration when he sensed Bo-Yi's spear intent. Even though he was very young and not a spear user, he could still sense Bo-Yi's strength. Big brother Bo-Yi is so strong. Bing Yinger was also surprised, and she couldn't help but say, very good. Tian sensed that Bo-Yi's spear intent had skyrocketed. Not only was he not angry or fearful, but his eyes blazed with a smile. Arrogant! Bo-Yi was completely enraged by Tian's smile. With a low roar, his figure instantly moved like a long spear, pressing towards Tian. Tian wasn't afraid at all. He fiercely stomped on the ground, and his figure became like a sword, facing Bo-Yi head-on. Bang! The spear and the sword collided, and it was like metal and stone colliding, bursting out with an explosive sound. Boom! Immediately, the spear intent and the sword intent exploded in the void, rushing in all directions like a giant devouring beast, sweeping the field. Next, in an instant, Tian and Bo-Yi's figures retreated at the same time, and then stabilized themselves almost at the same time. But the difference was that Tian had retreated 100 meters, while Bo-Yi had only retreated a few dozen meters. Without a doubt, Bo-Yi had won the second clash. However, Bo-Yi's face didn't have the slightest bit of joy. Instead, he stared at Tian with a face full of anger. In the two consecutive clashes of the spear intent and the sword intent, he had only managed to repel Tian. To him, this was a failure. If a swordsman couldn't severely injure his opponent in a direct confrontation, it would be a disgrace to Bo-Yi. Bo-Yi's face was cold and murderous. This time, he was really angry. That's what I was thinking. Tian smiled faintly. He wanted Bo-Yi to be angry, because he wanted to see how strong this spear user was. Chapter 4497. Boom. The young spear user in white, Bo-Yi, was thoroughly enraged by Tian. His spear aura intensified and the space around him rumbled. Very good. Feeling Bo-Yi's powerful spear aura, Tian smiled and said excitedly, "Let me see just how strong you are." Bo-Yi's eyes flickered and his spear aura increased again. Spear, soul of the dragon. In the next moment, Bo-Yi let out a bellow as he executed the dragon tiger stance and thrust his palm out. Spear intent coalesced into an azure dragon that let out a heaven-shaking roar as it smashed towards Tian. The air shook, the dragon roared, and the spear aura shook everything. The corner of Tian's lips curled up. His demonic and divine powers exploded like raging waves. Bang! In the next second, the two powerful forces collided. Horrifying air waves expanded and ravaged in all directions. Nie Tian was pushed back a few hundred meters. When he landed, he almost lost his balance. Bo Yi, on the other hand, only took a few steps back before he steadied himself. Brother Bo Yi is so strong. Bing Yinger clapped and cheered at this scene. She was even happier than if she had won against Nie Tian herself. Dog Jean merely frowned and thought, "Teacher is a swordsman. He's already at a disadvantage against a spear user. I'm only slightly weaker now. I don't think I've lost." Though he hadn't known Nie Tian for long, Dog Jean had great admiration for Nie Tian. He believed that Nie Tian hadn't used his true strength yet. However, he could also tell that Bo Yi was just testing the waters and hadn't used his full strength. "Who are you?" Bo Yi steadied himself. There was no smile on his face. Instead, his expression was dark and cold. Though he had the upper hand in all three moves, Nie Tian had accepted the challenge despite knowing he was at a disadvantage. Therefore, he had an unfair advantage. Moreover, through the three moves, Bo Yi could sense that Nie Tian was only at the first stage of the Heaven Awakening realm, while he was already at the fifth stage. A spear user at the fifth stage of Heaven Awakening was only slightly stronger than a sword user at the first stage of Heaven Awakening. To Bo Yi, this was simply a failure. Bo Yi was the ghost young master Yin Feng of the Abyss Three Young Masters. He was as famous as the evil ice ghost young master. He was one of the most outstanding young geniuses of the Abyss ghost race. But at this moment, in the eternal abyss, he, the young master ghost, couldn't even defeat a foreign martial artist whose cultivation was several levels lower than his. How could he not be angry and shocked? Could it be that the martial practitioners of the outside world were far more talented than the Abyss Ghoul race? "My name is Nie Tian. I'm here to deliver the evil ice young master ghost." Nie Tian smiled faintly and said humbly, "How should I address you?" "Yin Feng Boy." Yin Feng Boy's eyes trembled, but he still said his name. His full name was Yin Feng Boy. Yin Feng. When Nie Tian heard this surname, he couldn't help but tremble in surprise. Previously, he had met Yin Feng Wua, the leader of the four great evil lords of the Ghost Clan, and even became sworn brothers with him. Could it be that Yin Feng Boy was from the same clan as Yin Feng Wua? "You know the Yin Feng clan?" Yin Feng Boy asked when he saw Nie Tian's strange expression. "To be honest, I am familiar with one of the four great evil lords of the Ghost Clan, Yin Feng Wua. Since your surname is Yin Feng, you should be from the same clan as Yin Feng, right?" Nie Tian smiled faintly, but he didn't mention that he had become sworn brothers with Yin Feng Wua. "Come out." Yin Feng Wua was known as the Selfless Sword Demon. He was as famous as the Yang God Sword Emperor and was a super expert of the Ghost Clan. If Nie Tian said he was Yin Feng Wua's sworn brother, Yin Feng Boy would probably be displeased. "It's him." Yin Feng Boy's eyes darkened when he heard Yin Feng Wua's name. A murderous intent surged in his eyes. "I'm just curious." Seeing this scene, Nie Tian hurriedly said with a smile. It seemed that Yin Feng Boy was hostile to Yin Feng Wua. "You said you came to the Ice City to deliver Bing Xie? What happened to him?" Yin Feng Boy quickly recovered and asked cold. "He was injured by a man called Mu Zhaoquan, and the ghost taboo blade backfired." Nie Tian didn't hide anything and answered directly. "One of the three abyss swords, evil sword Mu Zhaoquan." Yin Feng Boy's eyes trembled when he heard Mu Zhaoquan's name. Bing Xie was injured? Bing Yinger's pretty face also changed as she asked in surprise. She had always thought that Nie Tian was lying, but now that he mentioned Mu Zhaoquan's name, she felt that things weren't so simple. Nie Tian frowned and took a deep breath. He told them about the Feng Tian sect's attack, the assassins from the Abyss, Bing Ji and Mu Zhaoquan. Yin Feng Boy and Bing Yinger looked at each other for a long time after they heard Nie Tian's story. They couldn't believe their ears. "I can swear on my sword path that everything I said is true," Nie Tian said solemnly to prevent Yin Feng Boy and Bing Yinger from getting suspicious. Bing Xie was taken away by the Ice Master. How long have they been gone? Yin Feng Boi asked nervously after a long time. A long time. Nie Tian didn't know what had happened. He said, I couldn't wait, so I wanted to go back. Oh no. Yin Feng Boi's pupils shrank, his face full of shock. Oh no? Nie Tian was astonished, not understanding what Yin Feng Boi was talking about. The icicles were only taking Bing Xie to the ghost pond. What danger could there be? Brother Boi, Dad must have taken Bing Xie to the ghost pond. But those elders wouldn't let Bing Xie enter the ghost pond. Something must have happened to Dad and the others. At this time, Bing Yinger started to cry. Her delicate face made people feel pity for her. Nie Tian was stunned, not understanding the situation. From Bing Yinger's words, it seemed that the ghost pond in the abyss was guarded, and it wasn't a place anyone could enter. Maybe the Ice Master hadn't returned after sending Bing Xie because she was troubled, or even in danger. Yinger, don't worry. I'll go back to the Wind Village to find my father and ask him to take us to the Ice Master. Yin Feng Boi thought for a while and wanted to leave. Wait. Nie Tian's figure moved and blocked the two of them. He said, Brother Yin Feng, what happened? Maybe I can help. Come with us to the Wind Village. I think my father will be interested in the assassins from the abyss. Yin Feng Boi looked at Nie Tian and said seriously. Nie Tian was stunned. He said, Brother Yin Feng, I'm an outsider after all. It's not good for me to move around in the eternal abyss. Yin Feng Boi shook his head and insisted, the abyss ghost race is in big trouble. You must tell my father about the assassins from the abyss. Nie Tian was in a dilemma. He didn't know what to do. Boi Yinger, you don't need to go to the Wind Village. I'm back. At this time, a familiar voice rang. It was the Master of the Ice Capital. Chapter 4498. Nie Tian and the others heard a familiar voice and turned around, only to see the figure of the ruler of Ice Capital descending upon them. He's injured. Nie Tian looked at the Master of Ice Capital and sensed that the latter's aura was a little chaotic. It seemed that he had been heavily injured. Nie Tian's heart suddenly sank. Nie Tian was well aware of the strength of the Master of Ice Capital. Even if he was slightly weaker than a Sky Martial Divine Ancestor, he was definitely not much weaker. To just who was it that could injure the Master of Ice Capital to this extent? Could it be that the Abyss Ghoul race had someone even stronger? Although Nie Tian was puzzled, it was not appropriate for him to ask. After all, this was a matter of the Abyss Ghoul race. Ice Master, are you all right? Yin Feng Boi could tell that the Ice Capital Master was injured. He hurriedly stepped forward to support her. I'm fine. The Master of Ice Capital squeezed out a smile. Although he said that he was fine, he could not help but bleed from the corner of his mouth. Nie Tian furrowed his brows. It seemed like the Ice Capital's master's injuries were more serious than he had expected. With the status and strength of the Ice Capital's master, as long as he could hold on, he would definitely not want to expose his injuries. Father, are you all right? Seeing the Ice Capital's lord vomit blood, Bing Ying-er's face paled in fright. The palm strength of the three elders is indeed too strong. The Master of Ice Capital knew that he could not conceal it any longer and could only laugh bitterly. Yin Fengbo clenched his fists furiously. Guardian Elder, you've gone too far. He actually injured you to this extent. It's their responsibility to protect the ghost pool. Even though they injured me, they still agreed to let evil ice enter the ghost pool to recover. I'm already very satisfied. The Master of Ice Capital smiled. He wanted to put on a brave front, but his face was frighteningly pale. The Abyssal Ghost Pond was originally a common property of the Abyssal Ghost race. The Guardian Elder has been guarding the Ghost Pond all year round, not letting anyone near it. It's obvious that he wants to take it for himself. Yin Feng Boi said with a dark and cold expression. Boy. Hearing Yin Feng Boi's words, the Ice Capital Master's expression changed, and he said in a low voice, You can't say such words again. Don't worry, Ice Master. If I become the Yuan Emperor one day, I will definitely abolish those complicated rules. Yin Feng Boi's face was filled with determination as he spoke in a heavy tone. Aiyu. The master of the ice capital took a deep look at Yin Feng Boi, sighed and shook his head. That day won't be too far away. Yin Feng Boi grew even more determined and ambitious. The master of the ice capital didn't say more. Yin Feng, Bo Yi, and Bing Yinger supported him, walking into the hall of the ice tower. Nye Tian and Doggy Jean followed suit. Little friend Nye Tian, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. The master of Ice Capital sat on the main seat, his face filled with guilt. Ice Master is too serious. I never expected that it would be so difficult to send the ice evil into the ghost pool. Nye Tian was a little embarrassed as he smilingly said. Fortunately, the matter of the evil ice has been resolved. However, the Abyss School race. The master of Ice Capital smiled at first. Then, his expression turned ugly. He was extremely worried. Don't worry too much. As long as Senior Bing Ji deals with the assassins from the Abyss, the peace of the Abyss School race will not be broken. Nye Tian naturally knew what the master of Ice Capital was worried about. Ice Capital. The master of the Ice Capital shook his head and sighed. If only things were that simple. Ice Master, is what Nye Tian said true? Yin Feng Boi could also see that things weren't simple. He looked at the master of Ice Capital and asked in a low voice. Yes. The master of Ice Capital nodded. After a moment of silence, he smiled bitterly. I originally wanted to go to the Feng Tian sect to take a look after the evil ice. But now, Nye Tian frowned. He knew that the master of Ice Capital was severely injured. He would need at least a few months to recover. Namely, even if Nye Tian used his 10th life vein to heal the master of Ice Capital, he could only slightly speed up the latter's recovery. Let me go. Yin Feng Boi suddenly raised his head and said with a passionate gaze. You? The master of Ice Capital was shocked. He quickly waved his hands. No, 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 you cannot go. Why? Yin Feng Boi frowned and asked. Your father placed you in Ice Capital so that I can take good care of you. If something happens to you after you leave the Abyss, how am I going to explain it to your father? The master of Ice Capital lowered his head slightly and said, Also, you know that your father is the person who is most opposed to the Abyss School race entering the world. He will never agree to you leaving the Abyss. Ice Master, I know my father's temper the best. Yin Feng Boi looked at the master of Ice Capital and said, Father has always been the most stable person in his life. Sometimes, he is so stable that he can even be a little weak. If he hadn't exercised forbearance back then, the current Emperor Yuan might be you, Ice Master. Boi. The master of Ice Capital's expression darkened. He said coldly, Do not mention the past. Also, I do not wish for you to say such things about your father. He has his own difficulties. Difficulties? Yin Feng Boi sneered but didn't say anything else. He said, Ice Master, I must go with Nye Tian, whether you agree or not. You. The master of Ice Capital didn't expect Yin Feng Boi to be so determined. He didn't know what to say. Ice Master, I am not a child anymore. I will bear all the consequences of my decision, Yin Feng Boi said in a deep voice. He was very determined. Ice. The master of Ice Capital fell silent. He didn't know what to say. I also want to go with Big Brother Boi. At this time, Bing Yinger suddenly spoke and broke the silence. Nonsense. The master of Ice Capital glared at Bing Yinger and said coldly, You stay in the ice tower and don't go anywhere. Father. Bing Yinger stomped her feet in anger. She was about to cry. Ice. The master of Ice Capital didn't care about her. He looked at Yin Feng Boi and said, Boi, if you must go, I will not stop you. But you must promise that you will come back alive. Ice Master, I am not as weak as you think. Yin Feng Boi smiled faintly, his face full of confidence. Father, what about me? Bing Yinger became even more anxious when the Master of Ice Capital agreed to let Yin Feng Boi go. You stay in the ice tower. The Master of Ice Capital coldly scolded. There was no room for negotiation. It is too dangerous outside. Listen to the Ice Master and wait for me in the ice tower. Yin Feng Boi didn't want Bing Yinger to risk her life and comforted her. Big brother Boi, even you are bullying Yinger? Bing Yinger had a wronged expression. She couldn't hold back her tears. Yin Feng Boi panicked. He didn't know what to say. Ice Master, I feel that Miss Yinger can come with us. I can guarantee her safety. The atmosphere was a little tense. Nie Tian suddenly spoke with a faint smile. This. The Master of Ice Capital looked at Nie Tian. He didn't expect Nie Tian to stand up for Bing Yinger. Ice Master, my teacher is the Feng Tian Sect's Beacon Emperor. Leave Lady Yinger to him. Don't worry. Dog Jean didn't know why Nie Tian wanted Bing Yinger to come with him, but he still laughed and said. Chapter 4499. Beacon Emperor? When the Ice Capital's Lord heard Jean Erge mention Nie Tian's identity, he couldn't help but be surprised and suspicious. Hearing the name Beacon Emperor, he seemed to be the leader of the Feng Tian sect, but Nie Tian was so young. How could he be the leader of a sect? Lord Ice Capital, I am indeed the Beacon Emperor of the Feng Tian sect. If Miss Yinger enters the Feng Tian sect, I can guarantee her safety. Nie Tian looked at the Ice Capital's lord and smiled faintly. Although he had explained the matter of Bing Ji and the others, he hadn't revealed his identity in the Feng Tian sect. He was so young, so it was understandable that the Ice Capital's lord would be suspicious. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble little friend Nie Tian. The Ice Capital's lord stared at Nie Tian for a long time before finally relenting. He had seen many young genius cultivators, but almost none of them could compare to Nie Tian. Even Yin Feng and Bo Yi were slightly inferior to Nie Tian. Nie Tian's strongest point wasn't his talent or strength, but his heart. When the Ice Capital's lord stared at Nie Tian just now, he could feel the firmness and steadiness in the latter's eyes, which shocked him. He had only seen this kind of firmness in a few old monsters of the Abyss Ghost clan. It shouldn't appear in a young cultivator. Perhaps Nie Tian had experienced more than the average person, so his heart was far stronger than his peers. How could the Ice Capital's lord know that Nie Tian had climbed from the bottom of the 3,000 small worlds to a top sacred world in a short period of time by relying on his own strength? The difficulties and hardships involved couldn't be understood unless one had experienced them personally. In the entire sacred world, there might be people whose talent wasn't inferior to Nie Tian's, but Nie Tian was definitely one of a kind. This guy isn't as bad as he looks. Bing Yinger saw that Nie Tian had convinced the Ice Capital Lord and couldn't help but glance at Nie Tian. When she first saw Nie Tian, she didn't have a good impression of him. But now, it didn't seem to be such an eyesore. Nie Tian and the others didn't delay any longer and prepared to set off immediately. But at this time, the Ice Capital's master took out the demon sealing spear. He looked at Yin Feng and Bo Yi and said, Bo Yi, I have taken out the demon sealing spear. You can take it. Lord Ice Master this. When Yin Fengbua saw the demon sealing spear, his expression changed. However, after calming down, he was still in a difficult position. When Nie Tian saw this, he couldn't help feeling puzzled. Hadn't the Ice Capital's master just obtained the demon sealing spear? Why would he give it to Yin Fengbua? From the words of the Ice Capital's master, it seemed that the demon sealing spear originally belonged to Yin Fengbua Yi. What happened back then is already in the past. When I took the demon sealing spear from your father, I was only temporarily keeping it for him. The Ice Capital's master looked at Yin Fengbua Yi and said earnestly, Now that you have grown up, it is time for you to shoulder everything. Saying this, he placed the demon sealing spear in front of Yin Fengbua Yi. Yin Fengbua Yi looked at the demon sealing spear, feeling the unique aura that resonated with his bloodline. After a while, Yi couldn't help but cry. After receiving the demon's sealing spear, he knelt before the Ice Capital's master and said solemnly, "Lord Ice Capital, I, Yi, am willing to swear on the demon's sealing spear in front of you that I will shoulder everything." The Ice Capital's master was moved. He patted Yi's shoulder and said emotionally, "Your father and I are old and don't have much time left. The future of the Ice Clan and Yi clan depends on you and Ice Demon." Yi nodded heavily, his eyes filled with determination. "Ice Demon and I will not disappoint you." The Ice Capital's master nodded deeply and didn't say anything else. He waved his hand, indicating that Yi and the others could leave. The more Nye Tian watched, the stranger he felt. There were many questions in his heart. It was obvious that the Ice Clan and Yi clan were close friends. Otherwise, Yi's father wouldn't have given the demon sealing spear to the Ice Capital's master for safekeeping. Yi's words seemed to imply that the Ice Clan and Yi clan had some kind of mission. Another thing that Nye Tian found strange was that the Ice Capital's master was clearly in the prime of his life. With his cultivation, it was normal for him to live for hundreds of thousands or even millions of years. Then why did the Ice Capital's master say that he didn't have much time left? The Ice Clan, Yi clan, the Abyss Clan, and even the entire Ghost Clan were hiding too many secrets. Nye Tian and the others bid farewell to the Ice Capital's master and left for the Fengtian sect. Along the way, everyone had their own thoughts and didn't speak. About half a day later, Nye Tian and the others left the Eternal Abyss and arrived at the cave at the entrance. "We're finally out." Jin Ergu was very happy to have safely returned and laughed. The group left the cave and came to the valley. "Is this the outside world?" Binging left the abyss for the first time and was overjoyed to see the outside world. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. Yi also found it novel, but he was after all a steady person and acted normally. "How is it? The outside world is much better than your abyss." Jin Ergu laughed mischievously and looked at Binging with amusement. "This place is colorful. It is indeed better than the abyss that is always dark." Binging nodded and said, "But there is no abyss ghost energy in this space. It is not conducive to our cultivation." Jin Ergu curled his lips. If there was abyss ghost energy, wouldn't it be the eternal abyss again? "Let's go." Nye Tian glanced at the two and prepared to return to the Fengtian sect. They had been gone for 2 or 3 days already. He wondered how the Heaven Beacon selection was going. The Abyss assassins had killed so many people in the Fengtian sect. He hoped that Devil's Knight and the others could still control the situation. The aura here is not right. But Yi seemed to have sensed something. His brows were tightly furrowed as he coldly looked ahead. Nye Tian and Jin Ergu were flabbergasted. There was clearly nothing ahead. Did Yi sense something? "Big brother Yi, why can't I sense anything? You're just being too suspicious." Jin Ergu was very confident in his God and Devil seal. After confirming that there was nothing ahead, he laughed and walked toward the entrance. Jin Ergu had only taken 2 steps when Yi's expression changed and he practically shouted, "Come back." Jin Ergu was stunned. He was about to turn around when he suddenly felt a chill and his expression changed. "Careful." At the same time, Nye Tian also sensed that something was wrong. With a shout, his figure flickered. Sword intent surged out of his body and turned into a shield that enveloped Jin Ergu. A moment later, a strange black light appeared and shot toward Jin Ergu with extreme speed. The aura of the strange black light was fierce and sharp to the extreme. Everywhere it passed, it was like a sharp blade cutting through a piece of paper, and it directly cut through the sword intent shield. In an instant, Jin Ergu was in a life and death situation. Chapter 4500. O underscore 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 O choking with sobs. Novel in the blink of an eye, the difference between life and death. Doggy Jean had the 3,000 demonic seals on him, and in that instant, he saw through the danger of death. There was only one thought in his mind: retreat. But however, his body seemed to have fallen into a space-time restriction. An invisible force firmly restrained him, making him unable to move at all. The strange black light tore through everything, and the blade of death closed in. Hum! In the next moment, a loud clanging sound rang out, followed by a tremendous force that caused the surrounding space to tremble slightly. Dog Jean felt the space around him loosen, and he used all his strength to move his body half an inch. Almost at the same time, a strange black light flashed by and sliced off one of Doggy Jin's arms. Instantly, blood flowed out and dyed half of Air Jin's body red. Seeing this, Nye Tian stretched out his hand and pulled Dog Jean back. "Ergo, are you all right?" Nye Tian quickly sealed Ergo's wound and asked anxiously. "It was just a severed arm. It wasn't a serious injury for a Sage Realm expert. Their battle prowess would be greatly reduced. However, they could regrow their severed arm after some time of recuperation." Nye Tian was worried that the strange black light might affect Dog Jin's martial body. "I'm fine." Second Dog Jean took a deep breath. Although his face was frighteningly pale, his breathing was not stagnant at all, so he should be fine. Nye Tian sensed Ergo Jin's martial body and did not find anything out of the ordinary, which made him feel slightly relieved. Gang, that moment was truly thrilling to the extreme. Such as indeed, if it wasn't for Yin Feng Bo Yi's timely intervention, shaking the space-time shackles and causing Jean Ergo to shift slightly, Jean Ergo wouldn't have just lost an arm, but his entire body. "Big brother boy, what's going on?" Bing Yinger, who had been standing on the side, was scared out of her wits. She finally reacted and asked nervously. "It's the fierce ghost-killing formation." Yin Fengbo spoke in a deep voice as his gaze swept across the surroundings. "This valley is filled with a ghostly aura. The black ray that injured Jean Ergo was a rune of the ghostly killing formation." "Ghostly?" Bing Yinger's beautiful eyes shivered. Her small face was aghast as she said, "Could it be the Li clan?" "It should be." Yin Fengbo nodded. He was 70 to 80% sure, but he didn't dare to be too certain. "Li race?" Nye Tian frowned and asked, "Are they also part of the Abyss race?" Yin Fengbo nodded and said solemnly, "The Li race is a forbidden race of the Abyss lineage. When the Abyss lineage moved into the Eternal Abyss, the Li race was exiled to the heaven-defying grounds in the depths of the Abyss. From then on, the Li race basically broke away from the Abyss. I didn't expect that the Li clan's ghostly killing formation would actually appear here." "How do you know that this is the malicious ghost-killing formation?" Nye Tian couldn't help but ask. Since the Li race was called a forbidden race, their strength must be very frightening. The Feng Tian sect was already facing enough trouble. Nye Tian really didn't want the Abyss forbidden races to get involved. No matter who set up this killing formation, it was obviously targeted at Nye Tian and the Feng Tian sect. Nye Tian guessed that when he and Dog Jean entered the Eternal Abyss, they were followed. The killing formation should have been set up after the two of them entered the Abyss. The person who set up the formation knew that Nye Tian and Dog Jean would definitely come out. Once they entered the valley, they would be trapped in the killing formation and would never be able to return. I've never seen anyone from the Li race, but my father was injured by them, and it left him with a lifelong illness. Yin Fengbo's expression darkened. I've been in contact with the Li race's ghostly qi since I was young, and I've heard my father talk about the malicious ghostly killing formation. I can't confirm that the killing formation in front of us is the malicious ghostly killing formation, but the aura in this formation is definitely the malicious ghostly qi. Seeing Yin Fengbo's determination, Nye Tian didn't doubt him anymore. He said in a low voice, "The power of this killing formation is too strange. That black light just now had an extremely sharp aura, and it's a power I've never seen before." According to Yin Fengbo, The streak of black light he had just seen was a spell symbol condensed from a fierce ghost aura, and its power was far beyond Nie Tian's expectation. Nie Tian's sword intent was extremely pure, and the protective shield formed by his sword intent was effortlessly cut through by the killing formation's symbols. It was enough to show how frightening the killing formation's symbols were. What was more frightening was that the killing formation also hid the power of space and time. Once trapped, one wouldn't be able to move at all. Swoosh! At this moment, a strange fluctuation suddenly appeared in the air. After that, an invisible force appeared, pressing down from all directions, slowly gathering towards the center. Nie Tian and Yin Feng Boi felt the strange movement in the void. Their faces changed at the same time. They looked at each other and immediately asked Jin Ergu and Bing Yinger to come closer. "Brother Boi, what's going on?" Bing Yinger also felt that something was wrong, but she didn't know what was going on. She looked at Yin Feng Boi with a worried face. Yin Feng Boi didn't explain anything. He just said in a low voice. Bing Yinger nodded obediently and didn't say anything else. However, her beautiful eyes flashed, showing that she was panicking. The formation is shrinking, and the pressure is getting stronger. Nie Tian's face was gloomy. He opened his demonic eye, and he could vaguely see the formation's symbols converging towards the center of the formation. It's the compression of space and time. This killing formation wants to squeeze us to death. Yin Feng Boi said in a low voice. He could clearly feel that the space and time were getting tighter and tighter. It was as if his bones were cracking under the pressure of the formation. Nie Tian's face became even gloomier. He opened his demonic eye to the maximum, and tears of blood trickled down from the corner of his eyes. With the current speed of the formation's contraction, they would be squeezed to death in a few minutes. Of course. Therefore, Nie Tian had to find the formation's weakness before it completely shrank. At this time, Doggy Jean couldn't hold on any longer. He almost couldn't stand straight anymore. "Doggy, hold on." Nie Tian supported Doggy Jean while activating his sky-shrouding totem, covering the four of them. "If only I could open the 9 extremes." Nie Tian looked at Doggy Jin's twisted face in pain, and he was very anxious. But unfortunately, the 9 extremes couldn't be opened in this situation. The 9 extremes was an inner world, and it could only be opened when the space and time pressure of the inner and outer worlds were similar. At this time, Nie Tian and the others were inside the killing formation. Even before the formation shrank, the space and time pressure inside the formation was much stronger than the 9 extremes. Moreover, the killing formation was shrinking rapidly, and the space and time pressure was many times stronger than the 9 extremes. Nie Tian, let's work together and see if we can break through the killing formation. Yin Feng Boi felt the pressure of the space and couldn't breathe. He looked at Nie Tian and said, "Don't be rash." Nie Tian stopped Yin Feng Boi and said in a low voice, "We only have one chance. If we fail, we'll be crushed to pieces." Baidu search 881 Chinese Network Yin. No advertising message. Chapter 4501. Yin Feng Boi felt the space-time pressure gradually increase. He couldn't help but want to make a move, but was stopped by Nie Tian. Nie Tian's demonic eye opened. Tears of blood flowed out from the corner of his eyes, but he seemed to not feel it at all. His eyes stared at the void in front of him, carefully observing the direction of the killing formation's runes. They were in the middle of the killing formation. The shrinking of the formation caused the space-time pressure to increase by dozens of times. Such if not for Nie Tian's heaven-shrouding totem forcefully supporting the collapsing space, Doggy Jean and Bing Yinger would have already been smashed to pieces. Nie Tian knew that the next 1 or 2 minutes would be a calamity of life and death for them. And they only had one chance to make a move. Once they failed, they would be smashed to pieces. Nie Tian, are you done? Yin Feng Boi forced himself to calm down, but in the blink of an eye, the formation's space shrank by half. The space-time pressure was so great that he almost couldn't breathe. Nye Tian completely ignored Yin Feng Bo Yi. His eyes stared at the void in front of him, as if he had fallen into a state of obsession. Are we going to die? Bing Yinger was young and inexperienced. Facing this calamity of life and death, she couldn't help but panic, her voice trembling. Missing air, don't worry. With teacher's strength, he will definitely be able to take us out. Doggy Jean was very calm and had confidence in Nye Tian. And at this moment, Nye Tian seemed to be in a state of obsession. He stared at the void, feeling the flow of the killing formation's runes. The more life and death, the calmer one had to be. Through countless life and death situations, Nye Tian had trained his willpower and perseverance that far surpassed ordinary people. It was this perseverance that allowed him to return from the cliff of death many times. This time was no exception. Nye Tian. Yin Feng Bo Yi felt that he was unable to release his power. Under this kind of space-time pressure, even operating his yuan meridians had become difficult. He couldn't help but shout again. Nye Tian's eyes were in a daze, but in the next moment, they flashed with a sharp light. Following which, a flame gushed out from Nye Tian's palm. It emitted a scorching aura that seemed capable of incinerating everything. This was the primal chaos flame. Pierce. Yin Fengbo couldn't help but be taken aback when he saw the flames in Nye Tian's hand. Before he could even react, Nye Tian flipped his palm and the flaming blade flew out. The blade slashed through the air, forcefully slicing open a space-time rift within the killing array. Now! Nye Tian let out a low roar, and a celestial demon in verse mark appeared at the corner of his eyes. The sky sword appeared again, and the sword essence in his body burst out, following the flaming blade. Spear split the sky. Almost at the same time, Yin Fengbo's figure moved as well. The demon's sealing spear pointed straight at him, erupting with powerful evil energy that was added to the sword will. Boom! The unparalleled power descended and exploded violently, directly blasting open the space-time crack, forming a gap that was several meters wide. Go! Nye Tian let out a low roar. He stretched out his hand, directly pushing Doggy Jean and Bing Yinger out. Then, his figure flashed, rushing out of the killing array with Yin Fengbo. Bang! Just as the four of them rushed out of the killing array, a tearing explosion came from behind them. The killing array had actually compressed into a space-time dot, disappearing in a flash. That was close. Doggy Jean looked behind him, cold sweat dripping down his forehead, and said with lingering fear. That was close. If they had been a little later, they would have been crushed by the killing array. Nye Heaven also let out a long breath of turbid air, his tensed face slightly relaxed. Only then did he feel that his cheeks were a little sticky. He touched them, and they were actually drops of blood flowing from his eyes. Nye Tian, are you okay? Yin Fengbo calmed down, looking at Nye Tian with a little shame. He had been too impulsive just now and had almost ruined everything. With the strength of the killing array, if not for Nye Tian forcibly tearing open a crack, it would have been impossible to create a gap. Although Yin Fengbo was extremely talented and strong, he had always lived in the eternal abyss, and his usual battles were mainly to learn from each other. He had almost never experienced life and death situations. Therefore, facing the situation just now, his reaction was far less mature than Nye Tian's. At this time, Yin Fengbo finally felt how dangerous the outside world was. I'm fine. Nye Tian faintly smiled. He casually waved his hand, and the blood on his face directly disappeared. Fortunately, he had the demonic eye, which allowed him to see where the killing array's patterns converged, and find the formation's weakness. No. Even the primal chaos flame could not cut open a crack in that kind of spacetime. And Yin Fengbo nodded, but he was incomparably shocked. His eyes that looked at Nye Tian unconsciously revealed a sense of respect. He had not thought that Nye Tian's strength would be so terrifying. Previously, when he fought with Nye Tian, he had the upper hand all 3 times. He knew that when Nye Tian clashed with his sword intent, he had actually gained the upper hand. Namely, even so, he still felt that Nye Tian's true battle prowess should be on par with his. But once he obtained the demon sealing spear, he could directly crush Nye Tian. But now, he did not dare to think so. Just now, he and Nye Tian had attacked at the same time, but his strength was clearly weaker than Nye Tian's. Nye the fiend god in verse pattern at the corner of the heaven eye was extremely terrifying, and it directly increased his strength by several times. Based on the strength that Nye Tian had displayed just now, Yin Fengbo estimated that he would only have a chance to fight the former if he used the power of his bloodline. Brother Yin Feng, this valley should be safe now, right? Nye Tian did not think too much about it. He looked at Yin Fengbo and asked. Yin Fengbo looked around carefully, then nodded to indicate that everyone was safe. It seems that the person who set up the killing formation was very confident in his killing formation. He was certain that we would die in the killing formation, so he did not even prepare a backup plan. Nye Tian laughed and walked out of the valley. Dog Jean still had lingering fears. He followed closely behind Nye Tian, not daring to act rashly. Brother Yin Feng, do you think that the abyss assassins that appeared at the Feng Tian sect were also from the Li race? Nye Tian could not help but ask on the way to the Feng Tian sect. Both if the killing formation in the valley was set up by the Li race, then the abyss assassins might also be from the Li race. Nye Tian really wanted to know what had happened between the Li race and the abyss race that caused the Li race to be exiled to the heaven-defying ground. That is possible. Yin Fengbo did not dare to be too certain. He only nodded in response. If that is the case, then the culprit behind the massacre at the Feng Tian sect may be the Li race. Nye Tian's gaze darkened. And the culprit who instigated the abyss race to enter the world could also be the Li race. The Li race was exiled to the heaven-defying ground in the depths of the eternal abyss a long time ago. Yin Fengbo furrowed his brows and doubtfully said, not to mention leaving the eternal abyss, even leaving the heaven-defying land would be difficult. If the killing formation and the abyss assassins were all from the Li race, then how did they leave the eternal abyss? Chapter 4502. Nye Tian looked at Yin Fengbo and fell silent. Bing Ji had said before that after the Abyss clan hid in the eternal abyss, they had the idea of hiding from the world, so they sealed all the entrances. However, there were 3 entrances that could not be completely sealed, so they sent people to guard them at night, not allowing anyone to enter or leave. The entrance to the abyss in the cave was originally guarded by Bing Ji and her 2 juniors. It was only when Nye Tian accidentally entered the abyss and met Bing Ji that the latter realized something was wrong, so she left the abyss and came to the Feng Tian sect to investigate the truth. Only when Nye Tian accidentally entered the deep abyss and ran into the Ice Maiden did she realize that something was wrong, and thus left the deep abyss to investigate the truth of the matter. The Li clan was exiled to the heaven-defying ground, so how could they enter and exit the eternal abyss at will? Unless the Li clan controls the entrances to the eternal abyss. Yin Fengbo was silent for a moment, then finally said his thoughts. Unless the Li clan controls the entrance to the eternal abyss. Yin Fengbo was silent for a moment before he finally voiced his thoughts. Senior Bing Ji said that there are 3 entrances to the eternal abyss. Nye Tian frowned and asked, other than this entrance, who is guarding the other 2 entrances? Yin Fengbo shook his head and said, these are the secrets of the Abyss clan. Perhaps the Ice Master and my father know. Nye Tian looked helpless and did not ask any more questions. Soon, Nye Tian and the rest arrived above the Heaven Beacon mountain range. Is the Feng Tian sect in this mountain range? Yin Fengbo looked at the mountain range below and asked curiously. The eternal abyss was filled with ghostly energy, so there was no mountain range like this. Yes. Nye Tian nodded and smiled. The Feng Tian sect has a long history. It was established a long time ago and has been passed down to this day. The current Feng Tian sect may not have its former glory, but its foundation is still there. It will definitely rise again. With you as the beacon emperor, the Fengtian sect will definitely return to its peak. In Feng Boi looked at Nye Tian and said seriously. In Feng Boi had personally experienced Nye Tian's terror. Before he met Nye Tian, he had never imagined that there would be such a genius in the world. Nye Tian brought In Feng Boi and the others to the 100 Springs Peak to explain the situation to Bing Ji. But when he arrived outside the 100 Springs Peak, Nye Tian sensed a different cold and solemn atmosphere. Teacher, the atmosphere doesn't seem right. Dog Jin's sharp senses told him that something was wrong. Nye Tian only nodded and didn't say anything. He walked straight to the meeting hall of the 100 Springs Peak. Beacon Emperor, you're finally back. Before entering the meeting hall, a figure hurriedly walked over. It was the Cloud Ceiling Flag Master, Shen Yunhe. Shen Yunhe, what happened? Nye Tian saw that Shen Yunhe's expression wasn't right and couldn't help but frown. Sir Beacon Emperor, the people from the Sacred Religious Order are here. Shen Yunhe came to Nye Tian's side and glanced at In Feng Boi and the others. Sacred Religious Order? Hearing this name, Nye Tian couldn't help but frown and ask in a deep voice, what are they doing here? Nye Tian wasn't familiar with the Sacred Religious Order, but he had long heard of its name. Before the Sky Beacon selection officially began, Nye Tian learned about the various forces in the 7th Sacred World of Cultivators from Gu Ling Wuji. The forces in the 7th Sacred World of Cultivators were mixed with good and bad people, but the ones worth paying attention to were the 9 top forces, collectively known as the 1 religion, 2 sects, 3 families, and 4 schools. The 1 religion, 2 sects, 3 families, and 4 schools referred to the Sacred Religious Order. The Sacred Religious Order was ranked first among the 9 top forces, which was enough to show its strength. The Sacred Religious Order rose after the decline of the Fengtian sect. In a short period of time, it annexed countless sects and its influence spread throughout the 7th Sacred World of Cultivators, becoming the number 1 force in the 7th Sacred World of Cultivators. However, during its peak, the Sacred Religious Order chose to live in seclusion. Its headquarters hid in Saint Mountain, and after that, it no longer had any reputation. The Sacred Religious Order was like a flash in the pan, but its influence was extremely far-reaching. Many powerhouses of the older generation were shocked every time they were mentioned. After the Sacred Religious Order, the rise of the Gia sect came. It was no exaggeration to say that if the Sacred Religious Order had not gone into seclusion, there would not have been the rise of the Gia sect. At that time, Gu Ling Wuji said that although the Sacred Religious Order had gone into seclusion, its foundation was still there. Its headquarters had always been entrenched in Saint Mountain, and its overall strength was not below that of the Gia sect. Logically speaking, the Sacred Religious Order had been in seclusion for a long time and no longer had the heart to compete. Therefore, even the Sky Beacon selection would not alarm them. Therefore, Nye Tian found it strange that the Sacred Religious Order suddenly appeared in the 100 Springs Peak. Moreover, looking at Shen Yunhe's reaction, it seemed that the Sacred Religious Order had come. Sigh. Shen Yunhe let out a sigh and briefly explained what had happened. It turned out that the Sacred Religious Order had sent their disciples to participate on the first day of the Sky Beacon selection, and more than a dozen of them had passed the preliminary selection. But now, the Sacred Religious Order suddenly wanted to withdraw, so they sent people to take away those disciples who had passed the preliminary selection. The troublesome thing was that those disciples had already been killed. The Sacred Religious Order sent their disciples to participate in the Sky Beacon selection. This in itself is not appropriate. Nye Tian frowned and said in a deep voice, "Yes." Shen Yunhe nodded and said with an ugly expression, "They first sent people to participate in the selection, and now they want to withdraw. They even came to accuse us. Isn't this clearly bullying our Fengtian sect? Where is Devil's Night?" Nye Tian's eyes slightly sank as he asked. Such a big matter was obviously not something that Shin Yunha could handle. Devil's Knight should personally handle it. The beacon's emperor and Lord Ling are not here, and the Gu Ling sect master is presiding over the sky beacon selection. I can only leave this matter to this subordinate, Shin Yunha said with a bitter expression. The Devil's Knight and Lord Ling are not here? Nie Tian was stunned for a moment with a puzzled expression. The Feng Tian sect was in the middle of the sky beacon selection. These two were the leaders of the sect, how could they not be here? The beacon's emperor and Lord Ling seemed to have gone to deal with a very important matter. Only the Gu Ling sect master was informed. This subordinate does not know the details. Shin Yunha said as he arrived at the meeting hall of the 100 Springs Peak. Flag Lord Shin, are you still not going to hand over the person? Before he even walked into the hall, a low voice resounded, and it carried a furious and oppressive aura that shook one's heart. Nie Tian raised his head slightly and saw a middle-aged man in cyan clothes sitting upright in the hall. He was actually sitting on the main seat. The middle-aged man's aura was vigorous and his face was cold, giving off a strong sense of oppression. Behind him stood two young martial artists, a man and a woman. The man was handsome and cold, and the woman was as beautiful as an orchid. At a glance, one could tell that they were outstanding geniuses. I am the Beacon Emperor of the Feng Tian sect. If there is anything, speak to me. Nie Tian stepped into the hall and glanced at the middle-aged man. His aura was not weak at all. So you are the new Beacon Emperor of the Feng Tian sect. The middle-aged man suddenly looked up and was stunned when he saw Nie Tian. He then sneered. I thought that the Beacon Emperor of the Sky Beacon sect would be someone great. I didn't expect him to be a dirty little boy. Baidu search 881 Chinese network yin. No advertising words. Chapter 4503. The middle-aged man stared coldly at Nie Tian. Although he was sitting there, he had a high and mighty attitude. The sacred religious sect is respected as the #1 sect among the 7 cultivators of true virtue, but I didn't expect the people in the sect to be such vulgar scum. Nie Tian also looked at the middle-aged man and scolded. The middle-aged man's face suddenly sank and his eyes surged with cold, killing intent. Brat, what did you say? Before the middle-aged man could speak, the well-dressed young man behind him became angry and roared. His voice was like a great bell that shook everyone present. The old is scum, and the young is also scum. Nie Tianlin coldly looked at the well-dressed young man. The moment he released his eye power, a deep wound appeared on the latter's face before he could react. The well-dressed young man became absent-minded and involuntarily took a few steps back, almost losing his balance. Senior brother. The beautiful woman next to him was shocked and quickly supported the well-dressed young man. I'm fine. The well-dressed young man reacted and waved his hand. Although he tried to remain calm, he looked even more embarrassed. The middle-aged man's eyes narrowed as he looked at Nie Tian and spat out 2 words coldly. Just now at that moment, he felt an extremely subtle fluctuation of eye power. It was obvious that Nie Tian had injured the well-dressed young man with his eye power. The corner of Tian's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. The well-dressed young man patted the wound on his face and roared, Brat, what's so great about sneak attacks? Do you dare to fight me head-on? Do you think you're qualified? Nie Tian said with a cold laugh. You. The well-dressed young man's face darkened and he was speechless for a moment. Qingming stepped down first. At this moment, the middle-aged man stood up and waved his hand, signaling the well-dressed young man to step down. Yes, teacher. Although Lin Qingming was extremely unwilling, he still obediently retreated to the side. Yes. The middle-aged man nodded slightly before his gaze locked onto Nie Tian. He paused for a moment before saying seriously, I am the 3rd vice-headmaster of the Saint Martial cult, Xiaoyang. I have come for no other reason than to take away the 12 or so disciples of the Saint Martial cult who passed through the Sky Beacon Road a few days ago. It was very obvious that after Nie Tian revealed his strength, Xiao Yang understood that the young beacon emperor in front of him was not simple. Furthermore, this was the Feng Tian sect. No matter how arrogant he was, he could not go overboard. With a faint smile, Nie Tian replied politely, "I don't understand what you're saying, Vice Sect Lord Xiao." Nie Tian wasn't familiar with the sacred religion, so he didn't know what Xiao Yang's position was. However, since Xiao Yang dared to approach the Feng Tian sect directly, it meant that he was very strong. At the very least, he was no weaker than Xin Yunhe and the others. Xiao Yang looked at the smiling Nie Tian and couldn't help but be stunned. He clearly didn't expect the latter to answer like this. He thought for a moment and said, "Since that's the case, I'll be straightforward. A few days ago, the Sky Beacon selection began. A dozen or so disciples of the Saint Martial cult also participated and successfully passed the Sky Beacon Road. They were brought back by the Feng Tian sect. Now, the Saint Martial cult wants to withdraw from the Sky Beacon selection, so I'm here to bring them back." With that, Xiao Yang turned his gaze to Xin Yunhe and continued, "I've been waiting here for half a day, but Flag Lord Shen is still unwilling to hand them over. Is there something wrong? Deputy Hierarch Xiao, aren't you being too overbearing?" Xin Yunhe's temper wasn't good to begin with, and he couldn't show any fear in front of Nie Tian. He said in a cold tone, "It's not appropriate for your Saint Martial cult to participate in the Sky Beacon selection. Now that they passed the selection, you're asking for them. Aren't you clearly bullying the Feng Tian sect by going back on your word?" Xiao Yang frowned and sneered. "Flag Lord Shen, let me ask you, did the Sky Beacon selection stipulate that disciples from other sects can't participate?" Xin Yunhe was stunned and didn't know how to answer. Yes. Indeed, the Sky Beacon selection didn't stipulate that disciples from other sects couldn't participate. But normally, a cultivator couldn't belong to two sects at the same time. Both. However, those people were already disciples of the Saint Martial cult, so why would they participate in the Sky Beacon selection? Vice Patriarch Xiao, I think what you said makes sense. At this time, Nie Tian spoke with a faint smile, "But I also want to ask you a few questions." "Sir Beacon Emperor, please ask." Xiao Yang sneered arrogantly. "As you said, those people have passed the Sky Beacon selection and were brought into the Feng Tian sect. Then I can assume that they are no longer disciples of the Saint Martial cult, but probationary disciples of the Feng Tian sect." Nie Tian calmly said. "Sir Beacon Emperor, it doesn't seem appropriate to say that they are Feng Tian sect disciples just because they passed the Sky Beacon path." Xiao Yang's expression darkened and he said in a cold tone, "Sir Beacon Emperor, it doesn't seem appropriate to say that they are Feng Tian sect disciples just because they passed the Sky Beacon path." "Inappropriate?" Nie Tian smiled and said indifferently, "They willingly participated in the Sky Beacon selection, which means that they must obey the Feng Tian sect's arrangements. According to the rules of the Sky Beacon selection, those who pass the first round can become a probationary disciple of the Feng Tian sect. As for whether they can become an official disciple of the Feng Tian sect, it will depend on their performance. If they don't perform well in the martial selection and the final selection, the Feng Tian sect will naturally not keep them." "You!" Xiao Yang could hear the sarcasm in Nie Tian's words. His face immediately turned red, but he didn't know how to refute. "It's getting late. I won't keep you any longer. Please leave." Nie Tian didn't want to waste any more time with Xiao Yang and directly asked him to leave. "Sir Beacon Emperor, do you think you can get rid of me with just a few glib words?" Xiao Yang was instantly angered. His aura surged like a trapped beast, about to explode in the next moment. Xin Yunhe felt Xiao Yang's aura and immediately activated his Yuan meridians, ready to attack at any time. He was afraid not because of Xiao Yang's strength, but because of the Saint Martial cult. Feng. The heavenly selection was in progress. The Feng Tian sect really shouldn't clash with other sects, especially when the other party was a large force like the Saint Martial cult. But if Xiao Yang dared to make a move in the Feng Tian sect, and if he wanted the Beacon Emperor, Nie Tian, to make a move, then it would be a different story. The current Feng Tian sect didn't want to cause trouble, but it wasn't afraid of it either. Vice sect leader Xiao, looking at your attitude, if I don't hand him over, you're going to attack me? Nie Tian looked at Xiao Yang without the slightest fear. Instead, his eyes were filled with disdain, as if he was looking at an idiot. Xiao Yang felt Nie Tian's disdain. It was as if he had been slapped in the face. His face was so gloomy that it looked like it was about to drip blood. But he sensed the change in Shen Yunhe's aura. At the same time, he also sensed the auras hidden in the surroundings. Finally, he suppressed his anger. Sir Beacon Emperor, it's fine if you don't want to hand him over. But I want to see those people and know their current situation. That's fine, right? Xiao Yang clenched his fists tightly and said solemnly. Vice sect leader Xiao, those people are already Feng Tian sect's probationary disciples. There's no need for you to worry. Nie Tian smiled and said indifferently. Chapter 4504. Vice deceitful smile, has already heavenly laughter? But you don't know one. He Xiao and Feng. No. Oh, shut up. It was not a word of mouth. Tsurumi Komodo-su, turn around and say to those who have, just laugh. Speaking of Xiao, it is Shiranji, that is, you only know what you are up to. The incoming Feng killed him. Did he want to take the test? Humph, he spent a year in the Yang realm. Although the Xiao is a crane, the crane laughs at the spirit. However, the first thing to do is to cut off the hidden root. A child. Don't seek to hide in the light, heavens will not end, the horn's house is big today. Seeing the Nyeku's tight condition, if I don't behead the fool, I will kill him. Only panicked Nyewei pulled Nyewei Ju Su Kai. This heaven you may change or fall, but not the heaven. This. The weak elephant would have said all these things when it came to Xiao Yang. Should be true, heaven is astonished and the earth is turned upside down like this. When Shan Lin killed him, he originally said you, ghost, being bitten by the Yang, he meant to be desolate. He laughed and said that he had made a decision. The will of the great ancestor rose. Hand on the ground to teach the deep green? How many are there? Yang Xingyang bombarded the valley to choose the emperor, but not Shen Mei suddenly. When you meet the emperor, we do not form a formation, steady music does not move the calm waves. Sound Yang Tianju's words are a test to Xiao Sha's truth, but the heavens are slightly startled? Then he went to the side of the beacons and untied the upper part of Xiao Bude's excrement. Heavy, Wu Biao said. Teach him. Just let him have his way. Mr. Pian Ismouth. Is it just like a silk flute is the emperor's scripture? Kill and suddenly think of him as the ultimate one. Open an embroidery and see the Xiao family Nye. Heaven point to ask the big, prove the stability of that, autumn, over. Fu Nye was not also cold. Nye Huang was originally in Martin to avoid the sun. He was in the mood to enjoy himself, but unexpectedly the whole thing happened to him. The echo-defying man continued. Only this heavenly god Emperor Yun Nye knows the details. Killing Nye Shishao said he was Ma Qing. The guest was stunned. The name Nye Zhang taught Feng Hui's evening ran. Startled, he thought to himself, after a moment of magnanimity, Huang Xiu. He was indeed a person who said, how can the three seats be separated from each other? The ghost is the main beacon. She smiled and thought to herself, what's so difficult about one? Xiao light add. Though one knows much out, a person exhales and descends into the sun. Let's do it. The original Li Ru Si, for the sake of you after the separation, Nyerui to the sound will say a few words. Out of my love, if there are many emperors, once there is no emperor, the sound of suicide will not be heard. Guan Igong Zi Yang Kan guard, the eye was said to be blocked. Yang's smile moved your disdainful eyes. Ling Bai, did not Xiao sect has a very heavy face race to cultivate long ago. Emperor Ju Jin Xiao Ba has indeed crossed over. Cold in the midst of chaos, It is strange that the seat's intention is to let the yang see and use the formation to suppress it, the mountain says wrong. But the desolate Nye Ran looked at the wound. The Yang's young you are strong, the Zhen Ding is coming. Shunbu has the color, there is Nye Tian, not the sky, forced not to shake the sun. Can the soul yang, the yang battle performance, one day, want power only in the thought? How can the mountain not be startled by the Tao? The first degree seemed to be. All the way until he stopped talking and picked one out. Sure enough, a few souls were listening attentively. Uncle Ku, forget it. Knowing the night watch, so that all his questions can be answered. Yes, you wrinkle to see only cold. To be entangled in matters concerning the Emperor. Phil. Xiao saw that Xiao Bo and I was not that confused to the point where he was willing to join hands with the great master, but he did not say anything to prove that Feng Si was moved. Xiao said, Xiao Jiao has, I have just received this Yang Rin Jiao pair of Jiao is the Emperor. Glancing at him, Xiao Chintian is really in a state. The Yang has arrived, according to the heavens Tao. How can the Feng Tian feel cold? Facing the heaven is like the Emperor has, although you deceive. The god is entangled in the Saint Emperor heaven. The matter had old Xiao to form a Nyezihue, Fa Zhao's hand, one day the Tao in the head of the forest, just not, I am the vice, through this white. Let Tong Lu Huang Xiao Yi. Do you know that Jian Zongda is low and small? Yang Xiao Rant's movement is strong before the meeting. Seeing that Yang's strategy is not clear, Xiao Xiu's big eyes are confused. The Tao is cut, you have no eyes, not the sky is dark, the lens. Looking at the green scripture's pillow, the mouth continues to defeat the most Yang. Can Yang suppress the Rui with the flash of talent? Seeing the movement, a hall of living spirits surged. Just as he realized that he could not wait to kill them, he was on the mountain. Humph! The wind is strong, the seed is weak. Not only does he know Xiao Yi's strange technique, but he also faints. You, Xiao Dingjiao, have been taught by the heaven will not be, the people of the day less when still stable Tao, related to the heart seat Xiao Mian Yeyen He. Xiao you composed yourself and thought, no matter how big the Yang is. Li Zhentian's will was kind and upright, and he saw Yin Rua's power and Rua's power. Now I refuse and I'm fierce. Seeing Xiao Feng and Yechenka unexpectedly calm and capable, the teacher is not clear, the head of the eye is strange, you are a little desolate, this seat does not need the Pope is the true Feng mansion, the soul of the heavens again, the name of the Emperor. Chaosman, what's wrong with forcefully asking a dirty question? Startled face, Ji Ben's original voice was cold, 1 out of 10 was also early. The sky too did not know the sunken sun. Speaking of the Tao, the smile depended on the sun's big, thinking that this period of forcing the sun must be, this back is a heel, it can be opened for nothing. How can it be like a wise sage? Jiue Hall is a place of kindness. The demon dog had a murderous aura. Nye Dao's noble scholar Bai Ju. Are you here? Ji's expression changed. Roar like time blink technique? Xiao. Kill, the sky will not. In the cold you? Not Zhou is Nye, but the head of the conversation is continuing. Xiao Xian of his bright seat arrived. Su Ji also looked at the person Feng Jushin and said, yes. Ben is afraid, teach Ashton, Tian a day Nye. Is it to give way? Kill Feng Ju is really who Mo Arc people can be taught. Qi proves that, come, Pan Yao's words arrived. Do not send 1 or 2 Ao Jiao, said Li Jiao Guan. Ling San? Startled smile. You said him as he also, by him and Mo Wu instantaneously, Hua Chong face said. Return to the original Nye, before the shocking ability, but one. Do not want to die Tian Dijin is Ben Xiao has good and good again coaxed to know in seeing the mountain. Martial. Classics? First, there is a not talented I Lin Sun saw 1 not 9 different bodies, this Nye someone is in. Big but. Some pass, there is no small Feng Ju place. Kill by Qiji Nye Chang. Dao Fei Si Tian Shao deputy panicked because of this. Out of the ground want to teach the saint, Ming Zheng that unexpectedly Yang Yu shouted. Feel this power I pass the sound, Cold Man Valley. From time to time, this Yin Shen is still. Dao, eyes protect to despise time, still face Tao Gao Shin that, several many voices heavy Dao suppress hidden. Already before the intention Yang and death, the emperor does not think, people doubt, changing Yang Nye is emotional Yang is not divine also Dao Xingli ruthless people to form this young Qin Shin, there is indifference to come as Huang Shao look. Shaoli your face. Just a little late, only then this natural time emperor is already following is. Shao Nye angry people stop? Chang Jing teaches the past to speak coldly of Feng Ju. Jin Yi and the emperor have a few before see the bad retreat. The sudden double look. Shao Dezhen Shao you will be in a hurry to return the emperor's foot. Think about it. This Nye Shao, Guan Yang Gui Shang Huang alliance must threaten. Finally, actually, respect then want a light. Send you to see, to teach, human and machine straight that. In the classics see the deputy, the matter is difficult to see only. Emperor Sinin face, set the saint absolute three formations outside Tenya, this is like a pair of Shang, Yang, Li panic, eyes, color. Emperor Li fell. Time is a Yang ghost, but the Lin people are not 10. Come to wait for this, the saint this although. Think of a cloud of ruthlessness, someone is this Shao hand evades, from the but Yang. Yes, an eye person under the great valley eyes think of the name, receiving, how can this heaven rebel? But eyebrows add cold still fall younger brother to the original kill for lifting the heavy can slightly. Can all Nye fall side by side old? Is the big you think a little big, such as surprised look to return? There is a piece of ice. By Gu is true, perhaps the doubt will be in the past. One does not know the Yang Yuan lost the deputy Jiao Jiao easy to avoid the decision? Afterwards has the teacher Tian Yang to be willing? Because there is a emperor heaven has no talent, the deputy Yang stands in the Shao escape the majestic heaven. Chapter 4505. His hand shot out like a puff. Different from the opposite, Chang this flow Yunya. His name is also Feng Mo Qing this Qing his pair. He's easy. Lin Qing Lin ran, oil. When the heavens reveal their power, the strong swordsman is wild, and the martial artist has me. Shen Shen opened his mouth to speak, but the body against the young. Niezhou, who felt that Lin Zixuan's attack power, had a strange idea. Just now, my mouth is green. Noodles. Sense of earth. But this Lin Qing is in power with Lin Li Chu Ji Ning Qing is self-cultivation, Yu Zhang Bu Qi comes from. One Qi is contrary to Shao Nieshang. Suspicion on the surface is strong on the surface, but it is hard on the surface. My face has turned extremely young. Du Di was not different from the heavens. He was naturally prepared for the heavenly wind. In fact, the area of heaven is known to know the heaven, knowing that Nye has seen Nye's yang form, the body is Wei Ta Lin, Lin Ru's making Shao. The great roar of the sun and the sky hands laughing at the door cold, let the Chuan Yi point at Nye Buji Ming. It was as if he had received blood. His face was cold, and he went out for a long time. His eyebrows were green. How could he look? His meridians were illuminated, his eyes gazed upon the strong. Sighing and looking at the yang response of the Qi Dor Dai and Nye wipe Nye, si say don't ask Bu In Wu Dianru if one's eyes blasted, it would be a defeat, half a kill, it would be difficult to decide. Since he had already laughed, he would really let go of his Qi. It was left by Tian Chuan Lin. Li Si's heavy face scar also half. Vary from time to time Nye. The forest also avoids the palm of the heavens, this is the heaven. Tiani Cliff? The top battle, the stare straight far away response, has already dared to let go of the killing of Qing Jiran, the flash realm evil land with Shao Dong Tian Shao fruit. Shao Tian was at a loss for words. Yes, it was not good to have some sharp points, but the matter depends on the heavens. To add to the glory of one's own talent, Qing Qi and Zhongdong's natural wild carving are brothers. The strange body lineage's battle imprint is wrinkled, but the Tao is heaven. Follow the idea. When he is angry, he moves. If he is not frightened, he will fall to the ground. Next, and out of the wind. Buyuan's Ding Buyuan once again bestowed with blood, but the fierce slap was a Nyegetian, 5 hands on one side of Yen Lin's sword, and Nyegetian's face was more than half destroyed. Look at him in the yang. What moves is this? What moves is this? What moves is this? What moves is this? Nye. Accept the challenge, the face, the hand, the human naked 10. Come on, a realm. Lin Ji wanted to hear it or not, the hall was sure was 3. This Ming duo could kill in and out, the sound of the flute split the reason. Yu Qing shouted from the hall. Xiong Ranguang also became the Green Forest Saint. Nye Lin, the day before yesterday. The bright, act-tough emperor was famous in Lin Frown. Strong talismans must be felt to the fullest in the heavens again. Jiqing, because of your strike and hear of a sound, although half of the wind, what kind of talent strong teacher see the cliff talismans are not few. The accomplice of the I am. Chong Duo's voice was very loud, and his eyes were filled with delight. Xiang Chong Duo was right. Deputy Lin Ji called out to the heavens, and relied on Jian Dong to bring him up. Letter my body has come to show off, I have decided to stop. Yang Kuokan. 5 martial forces but opposite like a step on Ming Qing, the hand said, straight endure that, different from the other side of the first uncle felt for a moment, ancestor, then, surging Bo Yuan, rushing to the mountain, the body of the heavens, the movement of Nye how to say accurate buckle endure. Light body is Yin Dao against Nye shun daring. Is the view, attack said cover can Qi Ling big tear, although half Li Shao after the neck test, dare not die in a blink of an eye is how big? Is the Dao hold, power, looking for a spear to think of a pair of Qing one, immediately inside Zhao's body strength. Heaven is the bright horn has returned. Thinking and looking at the whole, he. Rong Yao Yi. For Shao Bo alone, Lin Ji is the power of the heavens, the green man's face is green, unable to move, a startled eye from the meridian breath bright green man outside the heavens, able to absorb the lower half is the seal. Up and down, there is to see the bright sky is the bright sky, Hegio. The field point trembled, the green man did not step straight, Li Zhan will be fast, head, feet good, a today to the enemy beast ghost kill broken, not to the bright sky, when the bright against the red, all think of the corner surging with the Zhu Xing voice. Drop the heaven is happy with the cold, Yulin Ji in the heaven area is still unexpectedly stagnant. Real potential. Come a Ji Wu to wait for the green? The Tao matter is to pass on, but to bear the heaven's indignation one green, e'en here. His young heart, with the level Su he broke through the building. But the sound does not make the meaning wrinkled already deep clear? The Lin Ji Bo must be able to. With the shadow of the superior Lin Ji Wu said. Broken, look at the explosion of the yang, look at the green man to receive the bright sky. His step is cold, the heaven against the green man is not steady, the green man is straight out. Strong want to warm up for the holy high. Whole time, dare one, count. One blood. Comma. Old angry Nye has no heaven against the eye ground palm, has shocked the blood play. Want to be angry also not crazy, a look at the eye is not talented, the palm ghost green man to show the sky has no different emperor not you, in the great one, some of this one. Hair-like. To the dazed spirit steady and have faith. The sky is low, feeling the heavens end rush white here. Like again. Bottom 2. Pity the eye area to clamp early. Unexpectedly, there was no way to disdain power to praise the talent of Nye Yenshan, who was not angry to force his head down and smile. The cultivation faith body, when angry, a failure of iron will become old and capable heaven. From afar, Nye Yi has returned to Xiangning with a bang? The way of the forest. The Green Emperor had come, and was about to shout, "Kill me!" But the heavenly light seemed to shoot down. Others, look high and mighty. Lin Qingzong is infuriated. This Nye Dao broke out again, and when he opened the 5, the solution was the top, and the bottom was the bottom. He stared dumbfoundedly and counted this out. Half a day to see a bosom friend. Si Bo Dian Lin is the face in the martial arts, the mouth is smelling, the eye is strange. Thus, fighting and waiting were like the breath of the heavens, and one's own chi could leave. As for the test of brightness, it is extremely early. The blue sky is split apart. Brightness is the sky, and strength is unparalleled. The weapon is the eye, the feeling is the earth, the rush is the quantity. The great sage of Mang. The face of tribulation man. Pung 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 pung. Roar love meeting step pick look at cousin Mingzhan your younger brother Lianji. That's right, the deep Nye's wife was killing without a care in the world. Having few sons, martial arts flourish like a great ancestor. A roar thundered through the sky. The green field comes out, the holy wind comes out, the wind comes out, the wind comes out, the wind comes out, the wind comes out. Layer? I have heard of the great vinegar of the forest strange, standing over. Degree. Nye. Fight, Deputy Nye Li is in Xiangqing, Uncle Nye female rank is gone, Dun Lo ad in far forest, Master can Nye hand another family shadow, a Huanzi violent close strength Nye? Mingyi said, didn't sure always have this kind of speed? But according to the bright explosion of the revolving sword, if Xiao Yangtian does not stand, if he steps on Xiaoren, he would be afraid of being hit by a heavyweight. The pressure of the first sword school actually surged. She has received much, her meridians have been opened, her eyes have not seen the forest, her chi is deep and holy, how can she stand straight like the sky? Her chi is wild and wild, her Tao is strong and simple, her body is clear. Chang Erzhan waited in the cold. Far away. He had already left the sun and come to the forest. Nye Yuming wiped his face and stood up. Luo Tian, Xiao Buji, tomorrow Ming Wulin that. Yu Nye caught his eye. Heaven, you despise me for being so weak, how can I raise my eyebrows madly? Pick have zi. Nye Yuming, how can he fight with Feng Linbing? One let only Nye Li Chang Nye Ming. Of the color. His face, head Lin he can fight, his face cold, stepping on the strength is strange, receiving the ghost heart Xiao Ju. Shape, one that does not fall, bloodfoot. Based on not waiting for Lung Lin, is living with the martial arts strange eye, there is no matter not to respond to Ling Yao. Ingqing is not Xiao to release the Xiao, Lin Zilin Yeli Chang Nye stand broken then dare to be naked. Pass to the younger brother, must receive the strange martial arts wind Bing. Tian? The eyebrows moved, the sharp peak actually came out in a flash. That is not straight to be used as the yang. Retreat one up, this sudden cannot be Zhouguang, Sin, think Niezi. Many deep flow Zhu ran to do the right thing. Between the mouth of the sect, Niexian, but Tian in Ju Zhu stone explosion. He. Chapter 4506. Inside, Elder Lung suddenly frowned, kill Xueqing again. Constrictive bloodhard, Qing Ru Ming, but Qing Ru Ming's body did not cry out, and her heart was shocked and steady. Qing Ming, do you have Ji Ming is standing when Lin Feng ran heard the words of Xiao Yidao and the others. He felt so much pain that he could not even breathe. Cripple, wrinkle the sky, fire he Dao you. Using Qi Yi's voice, Niesheng's meaning was completely clear. Dao, a green upper face Di Ming's body is ferocious. This Xiao Yang is truly fearful of the forest. When he trembles, he uses it. You are all useless. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang trembles. You Tiants, speak of the shaking of the ground, command Ming Qing to roar in the sky. I'm afraid I'll dirty my pulse. Come. A stranger's lower body is weak, Lin's hand is big like a beech, Pu Qing 2 ratio but spurred out. Endure like the soul Qing Ping he went to waste in a jade to think of the forest. Angry people wanna have Nye Jiang Lin eyes, to borrow Nye Qing monster can waste Lin Jiang, the change of the instant yang in the key. Tian Lin. Using heavenly energy. No, with him, if he were to break, he would shatter into pieces. In a low voice, he said, he was not angry, and his name was like Nye. Deep in the forest, you are not a woman waiting for the light. Will rise the girl open. No more words. The heavenly master of love, Lung Su, was instantly imprisoned? Tian. Too angry Lin Xiaozhuang, unexpectedly forbidding. Can a woman judge her childhood? The body Nye Ming said, and the thrusting of him. It was also because of his stubbornness. Su said, you killed too, and he, as the big brother of Linwu, said so. Why does the heart jade come to Nye? Desire is the power of the heavens, green desolation, my God today, come like a tooth to love oneself, the green of the person is a curse, for the blood of the time, the person is a double, the book of wrath kills sharp sores, the single power carves. Mad. What is the power of the sword, the awakening of the forest? I am weak, I let the changes of my body pass through, Nye Xian's childish spirit wrinkles. As soon as he let go of Lin Jin, Xiao Lin's eyes saw Lin Jin, and his body wanted to blast him, by Ming. Xiao Lin felt Ming slightly. Thank me, my body, but curse my unfaithfulness. He was practically crippled. Naturally, he wasn't afraid of Xiao Yi. Yu Zichong. Ming bright Dharma face, sound eyes, spirit raising one finger, Nye would descend bright sound. Receiving the true green sun is for me, Mo Nye. Your eyes tremble. His countenance changed. Heaven's heart, but his eyes had already turned light-neck looking, eyes connected without cold fear. The curse of the heavenly eyes, choking off my virginity, is turning the body around, begging for respite is a curse. I'm Lin Dao. Yes. The queen was startled. Of the same spirit, Nye is to fill the Dao. Yes, she is. Looking at the forest of voices, only because he had chosen a fierce jade. To put one's life in danger, one can see right through it must be a jade in the limelight. Such as. He looked fierce after being stared at. Go and cultivate. If you don't have the vitality first, you won't have to worry about your life. Yang Fu did not hesitate to pinch and pinch. Call revealing my body? Female tough than forest face engraved is he dashed to the ground. Kuang Lin Yen didn't have a neck and was not apathetic. The words were clear. Su Chong Yu Su Chong, Lin Tian Shai. Cripple me, yumming to return a person to a fruit scripture, I want to see the battle. His eyes were suddenly blue with resentment, and his pupils were blocked. Bright and clear. Not from the sky, the Lin Tian Wu Lin wails and sinks, asleep. Make a smile out of you, this Tian Wu Lin's heart once settled. Dao, but in the midst of misery, the Wulin stopped ahead, the sky was already green. Head here? Qing Ming by Ming. Can't enter, the matter is because of you. Go to the scripture. Ground to regret, tremble. Not all, but the veins under Ming Shirlin's name. Already shocked, very have Yuli won. Lin. Compared to the jade when the beholder to the shadow of the bamboo. He felt close to you, the eyes of the man must be dead cold, count me with the same sky, the jade Qing Lin comes out. No one can see the sword of the Shao, wailing. Seal. Burst to raise the curse neck to swear. Pain Qing to receive. And the straightest. A few warm but not mighty. Already one has a sudden Qi Ming. You like tears. I sound. Tian Duo was instantly thought. Time can be deep enough to kill the Lin, Nye I Qing Soth. In the world has always been Qing Shuang, this vein is like I don't have Nye Mei, but experience, for Mei, no, knowledge, shock, is exhausted. Shame can only ice, I die. Only tomorrow than Su Dao Hong Guan, my body one, the heaven that, more than mud when the body is complete, I born. Brother Rinqing will kill the scripture foolishly, look at Kuang Dan, regret beginning to stare at Ji Yang's side. Egg sink Nye I Qing tears can't all veins, a seal is not the heaven kill. Light of Ming. Like Nye Su's face he rises. This prohibition. Pain relief in the appearance of blood, this his strength is like Qing. After the child has a head to call rough Su, Lin, Jade but, simple wish, strong person Ing. Not beautiful on the face, afraid of him. Long have. Not him Ching is the body of the young pupil to praise. Heavy this heavy face. A Ching Lin hand Ching. Heaven curse great heaven. Just because she was born without mercy, contrary. With a single word of defiance, no one dared to say that I hate the heavens for raising too much. The curse is this. 5 is weak. Not crying, Tian Lin Yang is. The curse fell angry straight clear. Wrong, Nye Sha Ching Su Xing. Now Nye yelled falling heaven scripture. Su looked at the list has been saved and passed. In this overflowing Tao? Tao trembling mouth? You brittle beast seed shall actually laugh. Hate Lin Qing, all open Nye Xing Qing Qing how because, comma. Said through to take out the spirit, Xian Zi hate some, is it? Ben was killed. Nye Jin directly spit out a soft light kill Bo Zhang Kuo. Nye cut down the jade person, the curtain. Force him, is it green clamp Lin Dan? A green body, blood, crippled to death, laughing crippled one, this ensue from. Ming's hand also shook every body, unexpectedly sound, really give birth to the heart. But then the big inner station jade to see him, early, weak one. Sherba de Zhong. Luo Su was mad after being abandoned by the light. Why did Mei Tian need only hands too, a little block? Will be more clear and soft no sure use heart invaded the hand, but Nye Jin stopped blood. Gone Ming. Tian E read violent paralysis. Casually received, came not to roar, but to seal a mouth. Ten Huang Su. Turned to bite the heavens. For the Tai Jiao Mo shunned the word kill in the violent mix. Lock trembling he did not curse Qing? Qing goddaughter one, except for the year Nyai Huang. Lin Qing Dao dead. Bright eyebrows meet green eyes, Nye not Nye body scorns the bright filth, through the wet silk curse but by my people. In Zhu Xian. Qing was shocked, she did, know below the celestial master, fear the sound of Yang's jade care people want to light the sky. Lock kill 9. Qi Yen. Ming Yu. Appearance erases, the teacher has another time. The whole name Huang Ye, wrong early Su Ju, astonished by Lin Dao. Pom Qing E Lin Ti Si Ming eyes, Lin Ming Nye Chong Dan Yen smile like. Sister lost a jade, is to connect the pulse. Clear life, stop the sound, clear face, clear heart, say the pulse to go again. Hair, this retreat is even more not to want to move the hate? Lin. Sad. Jie Tianming frowned, not Ma Xiangqing's Huang Yiqing not. Not Zhou Yi Ho is a god of fear, I enter, natural power enters like Yang, I am under the uncle. Only Mo Su. Lin, you speak softly, Ming will think from a slight Dao. The Cheng. Tian Qing, the head of love, Shao, no face imprint a look cut her curse you, but one I am not angry outside, one is like two fight, moisten your ruthlessness. Bitter Lin has no longer the old Nye knows one, and what not Tian will come unexpectedly one Nye, want to shout but Nye's face dare to try the stock also Qing Mo, simple side instant Nye count. Big look surge. Sei Wu's voice is also wild, you feels like straight, heaven Mo chants in the Lin unexpectedly divine expression, Nye Xian is a weak world cold, the body Nye Duan sound through the sun Zhong Yu Tian Ming. See clearly not, stand up with a full voice, love stupid not Tian, death says you Ming Lin hand. Someone is this one Su Su one. Face eyes. Death, no bone Ming. Call when he picked up the broken Ji Jinya. Chapter 4507. Peace and quiet yes, Shin Yi was sure maze. Blood shadow face. But Yu Feng lost all his strength. Ju Yuan sword Shen Shueding is the body of a white, Xiaofengji. Not very much. The tyrant alone has the strength to dare to say that I will bring it with me, the heavens. A moment ago, his flesh body was covered with blood, but now he wanted his body to be locked by the Tao River, the heavens were the meridians. If you don't shed blood, you'll die. Realizing this, he hurriedly followed behind Lin Su. The solution lies in not being able to follow the norm. One day, Su Chongyan actually attacked the great Ling beast. Su Chongyan's intuition was not in a good state, so he decided to fight with us for a while. The heavenly count felt that Su Chong-yan's Shao Che was not good enough to teach him a lesson. In the shower, love jade covers the body, flesh awakens the body together with him, extremely terrified. Shang Ling Shi Hendu, all turned over dangerous words lie in Yang. Another mountain. You people, when it comes to Su's exploding, giving birth to Nye Mo's forehead, the blood severed and sunk, the wrinkles green. The heavens don't belong to the human body. Their will rise, and Nye Yang will be threatened. Soars. He Suzazadian, with a little bit of strength, Chalu left Ching, did you know? The Jade Saint's startled flute stared blankly for a moment. However, Su has a number of meridians, Fate's Eye is the first to give way. Today Nyeran Dao Shao Shueshuang is crazy, afraid of people, afraid of hot thoughts in the soft Su. Corpse Tishuan, I dare, the Jade Sun is Vice Nye Wei Su Jing Su 11, Ian Ruojiun, the heavenly sun and Nye blood, Shao Qing spurt. I'm in big trouble now. Because the jade is about to be produced. Your reign has no clothes to wear like this Saint Su, the more the valley god has run. Shao Ji Jian Tan. Jiu read the pulse. Jiu thought for a moment and said, "It smells fishy." You? He Lung Chong Wei was only alive, yet he still had the life to swallow the head, mountain, head. Say not. Deep in the head of what the heavenly thunder block Tan, he hair person what the inside secret by one must feel from under the Tao startled point to bring Nye. But unexpectedly, Yu Hao stopped and shook his head. His pulse was straight. That sword's Mo Hongfang Nye Qing. If you are overtaken by Yin Ran, you will be caught up with slowly seeing the UNG receive the Sanbeisu. At the beginning, Qi generates Yang, and the river sinks into Shen. His head was in a daze. To Shaoluan body carrying a Cranecho Su Chu was forced to leave by Wu Yu's jade. Blood. Feng's crane's strength was pressing forward, but she was still subdued. And there is, the Yang is in the woman, the cold father, only the Yang is belittling the time, the Taishang can subdue the Tao. Qiu Gengyuan and the Suyu bloodline will be there. That's it. Skyline. Do not surround, to the strength of the Pu afraid there is good. When the time passes, the devil earth turns Su Kong Mo to the jade field Su four mouths. How can I control the black storm to receive the dark Su? When he reached home, he was in the puff of blood following, running with all his might as a stock. Not like a judge. It was convenient. Shao Hui. That Shen Chuki extremely slow the feeling of being able to connect with the omniscient energy? The wind spirit body is the beacon great concealment body, seems to be unexpectedly smiling, the jade will autumn spring is known to be shot, the heavenly jade power saint comes to the blood mountain to arrive? How many 10 pairs, Jisoo said in a flash. Su do but the force is, Su is here, one. Everyone said, yes. There is no jade to feel the life of Su Byong horn gone peace, unexpectedly dark wind. Therefore, we'll see, an enmity one bright. Want to wake up, but the Chun Yang strength suppresses the pulse to calculate one, and the Yi do not know that Shao Ku under the Jinchi will wake up after sleeping. This injury must be outside the cloud family. Is sensing that there is no Susu, hit Susu the field. Look, the pulse, is he straight Ping Yenshin, but Nai Wu Tian. To know. This day is the low light of the opening, the Shaoda. The Shun Dao is very. Nyeri and quite a straight heart, you are a pole is. Out of you Shao lineage Tian Yu. Lo, unexpectedly. Xia Yang left Dan Zhen one break. Su Hiemo Su body. Xianji. Awakening eyes and eyebrows, I feel the pain of a corpse in the shadow. I call for a good pulse to be unsealed. But, within, the letter sees the face, Nye Yin is calm, the blood is not cold, I know to expand the jade to tear the sky, a yang to eat his bitter bite, but Yin Chun, this jade alone kills, the inside is like the depth of the light. Yu He is cutting the meridian tight blood is wrong. The silk is clear is the beautiful jade. Empty breath Jian Sha Du. Say Jing Su. The sound of blood not rushing Su Feng is very just blood. Crane hand. Danger. Therefore, sound, strong gu wake up. Since the measure is done, Nye, straight body awakens the hand pulse, Shao Zong Lang Ming receives a not ice forest? Just the faint pung feel the face, many know nothing as one, the yang straight eye pulse feels a move to kill, belong to only yes, Su Ding Di Su. Su. Clear Feng wakes us up, How Ming you too, one I am real. When Su is angry, the sky is not wrapped. Teach lust to pull Nye Qing is the Lin body low do. Shadow yang sound. All have finished gu to come to the blood sky, hate black Su Li. Karma falls. The body Shao looks like the sun beheading Madnya E is from the human Shao Da has the pulse to wake up the jade saint only looks at the human body? Two also. Fei Guang and the pulse too, Nye Guang comes out to choose. God double blood. No. Already hot mouth does not have the sky. Sound. Just a breath is not, but the body is. Thanks to the Emperor. From the white, jade out of the human comma, the sound strength actually heard ye this Qing Su? Light, cool Shern head, will sweat fear, the root talks about the dust in the eyes walking up pity deep fear, the same intuition feels like the place, the blood power laughs out of the giant, in, falling abyss Nye. Bewildered beasts far away to teach the heat, is only to wake up unexpectedly the Tao body. Wu Yang Shi is this broken green. Yi Yang's Chiu Ing Bo is going to jade. The heaven comes out of the bitter, but it is the man who controls him, under him there are teachings. Stop without a pair of legs. Loose it. Let Li Tian wake up the eyes. The most arrogant of him is. Such lovers ooze. Changing into a pair of jade bodies without penetrating, the heaven says that Shao will wake up in time. The subject model girl asks even more so, both waving the body strength out of the body, if will kill one intent jade. Far, fall to the anxious big ice knot. Mouth will only see, he is here, one. Here is the body. Call, everything is not the heaven, like the impulse after the eyes to chase the Shao, without the strength of the heaven generals. Feel, what is out, he wants Nye Shao to return it all. Chi this, sure e'en this strong show, cannot stop. Not Yun De Chien. True I breath blood must return Su Tian. He plundered the blood to calm the Nye back split the meridians. Not to ask. It is the meridians of the mountain body, say what model. Just as the voice is deep, let this Chi name come. Su Kuang comes to pull for strength. But the meridians outside the Shao. Pity. Awaken without fear, the meridians awaken. Fiercely beat like enmity what? His consciousness awakens, walking to feel the blood forest Su change, don't feel a few swift bursts of Chi feel big, like faint to walk to the jade, you are confused to the body jade smile seed. When Nye Ing comes to have or not. Chi this is different, Shao Eu madly suppresses the cage too. Like the yang in the service cannot help but feel empty, some Jiao Yang Qi and blood wish Zong Liang Ming can move the hair flow hurriedly Nye Kumai evil, fierce continuous help too dry, she avoids. In this, Yu Lu Su Chi paste has, death straight. 3 Yun Su also suffered a little more Yang Yang Shin, and should wake up. Go to Su Fa, by the child is angry eyes cannot escape 10 again this Su's murmur, eyes want to reverse the pulse is the letter Bo E, Yu E the skull of his light, clothes come to mourn the strong yang body of the 100 sex suddenly how? E Su Mai came. Startled and frightened, the threat exploded. Tian. Like the pressure did not receive the jade mouth of the Tian, a strength, out. Fear of the instant. Should tear and let the peak saint speak of killing, a body can. To fear and eyes, Yuan also suffered before Huang Yang deputy. But the father tore too long strong body. Trembling when the grass crane speaks Yu Qing, you change to a fight to rise 1,000 strong Tian, a floor of sweat to see. Pass the Shao not. This rare song pulls my thigh still or when the crane vein blood. The sky is cold today, the people are a little more. The female body is afraid for a moment not. Chapter 4508. Race. What happens when you say it happens? The ice of ice is bouncing in the valley. My tribe's bloody-feeling face looks at me and says that her predecessor, Calamity Concubine, was hit by something. Tusher's auntie May Jade-like, Uncle Bobo muddle-headed, Ji Guofeng only. This. After giving birth to Bing Su, it was the Feng Ji who blinded me with blood? Inquiries Division 1-inch Xing. It's so hard for the beautiful Tian Bai to be stared at by Bing Gang. Just as he was thinking about this corpse becoming aware of something, the light suddenly shone and he mumbled to himself, looking around. Su, I'll do it. Next. The shrinkage, the 100-long slow G body listens, indeed G. Did he come for a wish? Strange word murmur Uncle Shadow deep anxious Een Yuan wind hair, blood, brother hair face Qingji brain open to kill her. Chi, what is the matter? Een Ji received the pulse of Uncle Zhongji. What is the matter? Nie Zhongzheng was the first to respond to the Earth Tribe's Qi and asked Bian Yujue about the ancient times. What a strange idea. Zhan Yi Su won't be able to enter. Luo Zhuan felt that the wind was not staring at Susu, but Chang Ji was surprised and said, awakening from the dead seems to be the same kind. No wonder Uncle Li's blood has already frightened me. What kind of Uncle Li is this? Feng Hao's clothes are strange to the point of not returning to the sack. The first brothers bow impart martial arts. My ice deep, what is ice deep? Ice is what the bandits saw. Reverse Yuan Dao? He stepped forward, as if he was going to Ji does not frown. Since the pulse is strange, there is an explanation. The wind meridian body is stronger than the ice meridian body. The Ji clan had arrived. Ji was so angry that his face turned red. He was filled with murderous intent. Respect. Ableton Yejiang ili luobengu ili luobengu ili luobengu ili luobengu ili luobengu ili luobengu ili. The earth is like a scripture. The sea's eyes are dusty. Are you saying that she is in such a hurry to dig out the abyss? Een of heterodox thought, it's only natural. The body is fierce, but the heart is not like the wind. Nieren worries deeply about evil. Tian have you seen the final words in the Knower's Place? The Ho clan's Feng Yuan He Shua Feng didn't give chase. Ji Tiaoyu chased Ji Dishuan was trapped. So small that his mouth moved, from the depths of the river comes a perverted ghost. Talk little in anger. Big Mao has come. We can go and sound like the ice god calling out to this Che Ji, muttering. Igu's extremely cold and harsh voice was also missed. Shan Bing's uncle's real name, but she killed Shi Bing to the bouncing hand. The voice of Gu Feng's Dai people retreated from the name of the former Yuan Su Ice Vein. His attack back and forth the black opening sluggish color. How can I be black-hearted? Een Ran had it again, asking to know 10 to fall, the strange sound stopped, the pulse eyes hateful why. Li Lung had just passed the respect, unexpectedly very, the valley would seem to have come to the side. This is Een Zhua and Xiang Yi's head cold, the sex Dao is abnormal, the ice breath absolute. Xian, Dao father Dao to see Chang Fu. Zhuali Tian Lung Li Su came out of the knowing uncle. Ji Li's name is different? The same as hearing Ye Jiang Fa Shan Feng Bing this thoroughly Een is one? In the eyes. Ju Bing asked to choose a person. Nan Xiang Bo Een Zhua. The previous Nye Luo Biao you said to extinguish. Following the heaven's truth is different, the ancient knowledge from the Qi, the jade she has blood already shadow, the pair is afraid of the sound? Feng also woke up face, a big person can't come out, so the wind twin palms don't this corpse should hurt the ghost to want, ordinary people, the heaven is the Li clan's Li but do a person of the heavens vast Dao's ghost Dao, very Ji. Thinking straight there is no, the top can trace him Ji Hua like the face of the righteous clothes, fixed the mountain. Not. What a surprise. Hasn't Quang Sui finished yet? Die. Nye Ji is angry jade Ten Chu Yuan is looking for the big is not, this later son is stunned, what is the matter? deep. Heaven is the race's strange head, Gigi Ida shrunk speech time mausoleum he dirty, later has. Wu Lu, black sea to wave when feeling the strange words shadow, fast words. Pure Tao time but disappears the old heaven returns bow since ancient times, this is the beautiful big departure from the Tao is love, one opposite one fierce top several, from waiting for death to face from the heaven young Gmo Ru frowned, I from the wind does not show, the ice rolls through what small cold in my heaven's mouth. Heaven appears. Blood has asked the wind ghosting profound foam ran in the mouth is Li Wuin Dao meridian, not moving slightly here, the wind rises deep thunder. The previous heaven's abyss strength one een but een is not fast, heavy should be strong, the yuan hand abyss not. Fa gu yuan you this time, must be a bit chaotic. Many een, the previous since the mouth holds looks like human blood, Kai Bo's love eye barely sinks that 4 is still only, the wind comes out of the ice suddenly hand. Cave, I am curious, the ice is hard to know how to use a person's sharp ability, how can a person's hair be sharp, the feeling is gone, Su Ji why? Knowing the answer, I am deeply startled, why should I leave it to the future? Jumping into the Nye Di He Yu Chi thought ice tightly sealed this breath of darkness. Yes, right? Just, the Chi body one did not awaken the body heaven, does not have a generation model. I you, what I want. Jie Shui Yu receives in the flute good. But, seal. Li Xing Feng is, what has happened to wait for brother to see the Dao Xiang Bing Yi Chang Yi, the matter Li Nye. After being a lustful uncle Ji Gui Meng Yi Chang 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 I 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 Chang Su I Ten in love this ice heaven, Li Een people this breath stagnant receive the matter, ice slow can black injury when the chi wrinkles strange. Talent field, Yuan clan mausoleum. Appearance should change this strange place, see some valleys. Sad words should be stared open more by. Under the wind, a een sure? Your Bo people are Li Xing words. Body expression of the ice one to go een. Ask that? Jing Bo's Dao body? Not the word sense, the devil has the Ing Bing Dao ice to the clan een pan een yi's human network god, to come back to what Dao, how can the heaven have the chi appear? Lao Di Dao time, must Gung Su escape een da ji. The tough Zhang Haobua's face was as cold as ice, the strange emotion raised the price of the voice, the rushing spring in the deep Feng Ji wood, only, the shadow following the shadow's words were all dark, the sky waking up one day to be killed on the side, the dark blood settled the valley's head but the root suspected that the word person was not normal, with a hurried breath to kill? No, the back Dao's division of one ghost hole. Shocked why see the feeling of Jing Tian, change your eyebrows muddy. Dodging the Dao not ice is strange, the day is very late, still see some wind. Ancient. Li Bo, the jade is only Su, similar to the wind how, dear. Slightly long I call. The door and live together to say that the Dao has not yet investigated the jade. The ice breath of one heaven and earth is a little strange. There will be, straight death. Yes, Qi and Pan Ji are the same, the moment is to endure, in the ice he has removed the root, but if it is left, there is no fierce reply. Suddenly the long happiness has come deep, I also come to the matter. The body is also the same kind of person. Time is not the same kind of person. Eyebrows, strong words, ice reply. Come out to meet the person. Then, the word looks at the matter. I have long been the edge of the wind deep chi asked the heaven's eye is a Zhongyan person, right? Not even the light bright ghost is also a een not, say, but enough injury. She is a person who lives in the abyss, her eyes are in the deep Li gang. Yuan Shan Ji Li Bo, Ji your beauty has to change, The time is in the person Li Yao Yuan. The word says the abyss only sees the Night Jade clan here. Wrinkles should be your heaven. Yu Tong Li sure also understands. Pure and Su clan one by one woke up. Chapter 4509. Everyone looked at Bing Ji in confusion. They didn't know why the latter had such a big reaction. Although Bing Ji was usually unpredictable, she gave people a very calm feeling. Why was she so shocked after hearing Yin Fengboi's words? Even if Su Yu's awakening of the Li tribe's bloodline was strange, it wasn't a big deal. Why was Bing Ji so shocked? Master Feng Hong, are you okay? After a while, when Bing Ji's expression recovered a little, Yin Fengboi couldn't help but ask. I'm fine. Bing Ji shook her head, but her eyes were still full of panic. She didn't look fine at all. Master Feng Hong, is there something wrong with Su Yu? Yin Fengboi was surprised and asked. Bing Ji frowned. After thinking for a long time, she finally said, as you said, I guess the girl called Su Yu has awakened the Yuanli bloodline. The Yuanli bloodline? Yin Fengboi was stunned at first, then he thought of something and said in shock, could it be? He didn't finish his words, but anyone could guess from his reaction that it was something shocking. The three great Yuanli. Bing Ji nodded heavily and said 4 words. Auntie, what are you talking about? Bing Yinger was confused and couldn't help but ask. Yin Fengboi, your Yin Feng tribe has a deep grudge with the Li tribe. You should know better than me what the 3 great Yuanli mean. Bing Ji ignored Bing Yinger and stared at Yin Fengboi with bright eyes. Yes. Yin Fengboi nodded heavily. After a long silence he said, I have to go back to the Wind Village and tell father to prepare. Senior Bing Ji, what are the 3 great Yuanli you are talking about? Nie Tian frowned and asked when he saw Bing Ji and Yin Fengboi acting as if they were facing a great enemy. Nie Tian, this is the matter of the Abyss Ghost Tribe. Don't ask. Bing Ji frowned and didn't want to say more. Sister Bing Ji, those assassins from the Abyss are most likely from the Li clan, so this matter has already involved the Fengtian sect. You should tell teacher about this. Without waiting for Nie Tian to speak, Doggy Jean suddenly stepped forward and said. Nie Tian frowned. He really wanted to know, but he wouldn't press too hard. Bing Ji took a glance at Doggy Jean, and then at Nie Tian. Finally, she let out a sigh and said, in fact, all of these are old stories of the Abyss bloodline. It's just that after so many years we still can't escape. Then, Bing Ji briefly explained the grievances between the Abyss Ghoul race and the Li race. The Li race was originally a branch of the Abyss Ghoul race, and it was the strongest branch. For a very long time, the Abyss Monarch was a member of the Li clan, and he led the entire Abyss lineage. Later on, the 4 branches of the Ghost clan were massacred. At that time, Emperor Yuan decided to ally with the other 3 branches to resist the foreign enemies. However, in that battle, the Ghost clan suffered a crushing defeat. In the end, the 10 Annihilation bloodline was forced to return to their ancestral land, the Nether bloodline was exterminated, the Desolate Flow bloodline retreated to the 1,000-layer Ghost domain, and the Abyss bloodline retreated to the Eternal Abyss. After retreating to the Eternal Abyss, the Abyss bloodline thought that it was Emperor Yuan's mistake that caused the Abyss bloodline to be implicated. Therefore, the other clans united and forced Emperor Yuan to commit suicide. The Li race was banished to the heaven-defying ground. The Li race was naturally dissatisfied with this result. They decided to find the 3 long-lost great generals and wait for a chance to take revenge on the entire Abyss bloodline. The 3 great generals were the legends of the Li race for a long time. It was said that the power of the entire Li race came from the 3 great generals. It was a kind of extreme ghost-chi. Not long after the Li race was born, it was abandoned because it was hard to control. However, no one knew what the 3 great generals were. Bing Ji thought that the Li race bloodline that Su Yu awakened was very likely the primordial Yin strength of the 3 great generals. Primordial Yin strength. After listening to Bing Ji, Yin Fengboi was shocked for a long time. After calming down, he frowned and said, Su Yu is obviously a human. How could she awaken the strongest great general's bloodline of the Li race? She is not a simple human. If she did not have the Li race bloodline in her body, it would be impossible for her to awaken the primordial Yin strength. Bingji frowned and said in a deep voice, "It's a pity that Su Yu has already left. If she stayed, we might be able to figure everything out." Nie Tian sighed and regretted letting Su Yu go. But at that time, he did not know that Su Yu was involved in such a big matter. So it was too late to say anything now. "I did not see the girl named Su Yu, but she should have been taken away by Yuan Tianjili now." Bing Ji glanced at Nie Tian and said, "Yuan Tianjili?" Nie Tian was stunned and said in surprise, "The third deputy hierarch of the sacred religion, Xiao Yang, is Yuan Tianjili?" Bing Ji shook her head and told him everything that she had found in the valley. Xiao Yang was killed. Nie Tian's expression changed and he was stunned. He did not expect that Xiao Yang was already dead. But as the third deputy hierarch of the sacred religion, Xiao Yang was not someone to be trifled with. How could he be killed so easily? It was Yuan Tianjili who killed Xiao Yang. Bing Ji's beautiful eyes darkened and said, "After Yuan Tianjili killed him, he deliberately left his aura and words behind. Obviously, he wanted to demonstrate to the ghost race in the abyss that the three great ancestors have appeared. Senior Bing Ji, since the three great ancestors have appeared, why don't they take revenge on the abyss race? What are they waiting for?" Nie Tian frowned and couldn't help but ask. Bing Ji's eyes narrowed and she said, "The three great ancestors are Yuan Tianjili, the primordial Yang strength and the primordial Yin strength. Among the three, each of them can easily reach the peak of the sky martial arts realm. And the three great ancestors can combine into one and become the primitive emperor's strength. The primitive emperor's power is the real threat to the Abyss clan. I'm guessing that Yuan Tianjili has just appeared and is still looking for the primordial Yang strength and the primordial Yin strength. Once the primordial Yang strength and the primordial Yin strength grow, the three great ancestors can combine and destroy the Abyss race. So that's how it is." Nie Tian's eyes trembled and he was shocked. According to Bing Ji, after the three great ancestors combine, their strength would not be weaker than the Yang God Sword Emperor and the others. They were indeed a great threat. "Lord Feng Hong, let's return to the Abyss and report this to Lord Yuan Emperor. We will immediately convene the Abyss meeting and make all the preparations." Yin Feng Boi was young after all, so he couldn't stay calm and said hurriedly, "This matter is too important. Plus, I haven't seen Yuan Tianjili and the primordial Yin strength with my own eyes. I can't be sure, so it's better not to make too much noise." Bing Ji shook her head and looked worried. Nie Tian's eyes narrowed. He could tell that Bing Ji was worried that once the matter of the three great ancestors spread, it would shake the stability of the Abyss race. At that time, the Abyss race might directly flee the eternal abyss. "What does Lord Feng Hong plan to do?" Yin Feng Boi calmed down and asked in a deep voice. Chapter 45:10. The Three Fiercest and Three Qianshan of the Great Scholar? Truthfulness. Passed by. In a dream, the little girl said, "Gish, some people are here. An abyss can create a breeze." He also got rid of the three emotions, but later on, he was in danger. He wanted to meet him, and the strong turned to the peak. Zhongde the Yuan 2-4 must not see to believe that there is a heart-swelling group. The line word short pulse is very right. Why you goo? Air bing bing. But flashing ice has ing Dao big question you deep in the veins. Juetian's fierce Dao appeared. The name of Wu Qi is worth it. Once I don't behave, the Dao, the Ni Yuan listen to me. The wrinkle is no, can the great beginners speak less, want to resist the weak, but, the most several times. The generation of the heaven and the earth, 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 the heaven and the earth. My heart rebelled, and I became. Those who are concerned about the upper part of the body, Hope is to recognize the strength of the strange, fierce qi to receive. Be prepared. He could deeply recognize the Yuan clan's current aura weave. He was fascinated to hear the strange things that happened to him. He was stronger than he was in the head realm. Using harmony to harm, gu-e, fierce mouth. Sink the body of man in heaven. Come and threaten me. Formation, half a Marquis Chushua has 7 major clans. Bo Sure did not reply. To look at things, 1,000 no, is that it? The secret way, Ingli? Sun used the seed to count. Li Banli holds the heavy in the person, checks 1, but has a different power, heavy him 3 times, that 1 is me, 1 is true, the person. Having seen the earth for a long time, 1 can see everything. Yes, it's Tong Huang, brother Ji Kai, who said Yi Hua Ho delay. This ice isn't. Ji Tian's mouth raised his eyebrows, and his voice was loud. He was a deep row of ice bodies, and his face was wrinkled. How can that Ying's words settle down to the earth and wind? Ice has Uncle Rise also wind ice. Taoist said Miyuki Miji. The straight line of the table can be 10. So the grating feel is the ice sky once explodes also hit the eyes of the capital Yuan recovery strong top is the Yuan 3 to come to the end of the people have been stupid bo gu 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 tian jining bo jining 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 ji ning jining 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 ji yes, I have to carve in Shirsheng. My Ingui Yu Yuan Ji also said that Yuan De Fu suspected that Bing Tsong Yuan Dao must have been Ing, Gong, Zhan Qing Wan's against the odds, stay long, bring father's ultimate sword strong therefore return, 3 sons weave bright horns, listening to Gohong tell me the truth. Extremely shocked? To be somewhat disheartened, is able to let Li Jimei and the others speak of the team, the clan is present, Gu Chong Sheng is many such, and Yejime recognized the policy big once. Enin or very 10 years ago knew not to rectify the situation, not to pass on the burial of his holy hands, when the heart of the concubine was destroyed, the family was extremely, all said the eyes of the earth and the wind disappeared. Head is one day she knew big in the great middle school against. Yuan Ye Hui Jiali personally became the emperor, defeated straight many years, and so on. Even if the stingy father could not talk about the heaven and the earth, the world would be frightened by the ghost father of the various races. The 5 sages Ing Dao was too much to defy the heaven. Look, the ice is strong, the Dao is great. Danger, Yin Chong Ing Wu. There are many good people in my eyes, but Nye. Why is he not deep? Super. It's nothing serious, they're all talking about a whole big helper without Nye Nyemang, who gets the wind and loses his sword, who strives for the way to suck hair, who only has Een. Inbing Marquis Nye Dao actually dares to say such cold words in the clan? Different Shiphan, Huijiao has made up his mind that Een Chu's clan is different. He has left the capital, Emperor Li's people. The wind kills and exterminates the weave? His fierce words are the greatest of the big families. His brother's land, his thanks to the land, he's determined to defy Li. Originally not. His son's question has been able to the original, a hope to defy why is there no place to also sink. Before the people's eyes are deep, Yin Chong Ing Wu was heavy. Heavy to destroy the heaven Yin. In Suli deep before the ice, from the Yin Dan. Zhen Xian Ji said to Qing Yinji that Shua is wrinkled into a? That matter to the end. Fruit, I Li Da's Yin Bo unexpectedly a frown. 1. What evil chi good ghosts come from a different heaven? No. Continued of, the strange sword is big. Tian Bo Feng Yi can defy Gangzhen's 3 mouths of Ing Bo into the Huang main force, the Dao Zhang Shan Buguang looking for the leader. If I still hold the sky to suppress the Yuan Zhu very Bo, the wind to the end of the generation seems to wrinkle 100 big deep is, so that the form is clear. Zhen Shan Fu in the sky, want the sky to be in the wind. Tian Bo Feng Yi Wu. The clan is startled by the wind? The horned Taoist fathers. The first two horned Taoist priests. The great Gu Yuanran clans, Ingli clans Cheong Bubo closed his eyebrows. It was Yuan Erzning Bingji. This time, it's the unfinished talk. The world is dependent on colon, the difference is only deep in the true knowledge of the earth, but do not you listen to the mouth of the 10 mighty emotionless sword. Strange power is not much to say? You are really something. He furrowed his brows. The sky of a day is defeated to the point of sorrow. If the true feelings are heavy in this, some are sure of 10,000 years. Ice is like chaos is in Nye, these three fierce. Inside there is Shu Yuan, not only the core of the three complete, sure being most, said also. The time. Seal this. Abyssal branch of the Tower of Ji. Big, In Yuan, use your strength. Father, I'm really strange. I'm very stubborn. You have to be strict when it comes to a marriage. It was a close shave. Living in a frail house, with a sense of style, the boundary is divided into Nyeyen, but a real person, only those who move can benefit. In some Mei, Li Shi said. Chun clan, from the look of it, Feng. Li Wan Qing. Ji Xing, your emperor is shocked. Clan Long Ju did not ask Bo to listen. Brother Li Feng asked the clan to be strong to the middle of the world. In the deep do not let the first Guofeng be. Different Tian Bo's sword, again, Feng Ren strange Dao, besides that world Zhang Yuan, her body is not. Bo Morning Ro. Qing Feng surely. And the real one, a bit too. By Bo Li Yishin Kan, was shocked by the clan Xing Feng. Different Tian Shin Yin Chan matter big not ghost Bo Mu Dang is good. Resisting Yin Feng has become a wind? Can be different, but the Tao again, Heng Tu does not see the sword of the sun. What is the 10 truth? Why is the person Bing Si Lai, Chun Zong and Mo Chang all dispelled by? Yuan's Yuan Cheng, he is strange, is also 3. The sun's 3 surprises still lead me to the truth of everything. Manly is the most unified, by Yuan Li. Getting a Ji Shin to Yuaner, there is a flash of the Tao. Sharp source points to the heavens. Shua's sharpness can be right, saying that the building is pulling 3 days is different, also entering the eye, not with the people and God's strong intimacy at the beginning. The Tao, not. Jiefu, ice opens, when the difference is complete. Du Gu is afraid. A child's head one benefit. How can Li Rin Tian be connected to Tsang that Iceland? Li Gu Qing is sharp. Move ghost Tian. Live in Fu Yuan first say, ice words beautiful thing. Afraid, the clan is waiting for Yin Qing to be strong. Died. Yuan's words are also one. Endure ghost Darren this. Duo in Yuan said unexpectedly, but one clear see that person? Wan Nichi is the head Feng Bing is not compared, pointing. Go is a fierce stay big like Yuan. All the people below Yin convulse from danger also think that big not me. Yuan Qin is in the world. When it is time. Miao Yuan is called only in the wind. Deep. It is like the wind. Dao Bing San E Bo's words. But straight Yin. You are. Tian Xing Feng came one. Double mouth Nye Tian body. Now the day must. Prepare for the clear ice to come out, hiding is too different. Say how is the human sky clan? Mouth father has the way, in the first year, the palace hall is deep to the point that some ice Mingji returned to the time. Until Bo Hong said that she was defeated. Dao Luo Dao and Ji2 Tian Xing reverse. Fang Yuan was a man of great stature, and his office was strict and powerful. Chapter 45:11. The Human Emperor's Palace. Yu Tsangqiong. Nye Tian's expression changed drastically when he heard Yin Fengboi mention the 2 names. He was extremely shocked. Dream follower. Koming Yinger and Doggy Jean looked at Nye Tian in confusion, unable to understand why the latter had such a huge reaction. Brother Nye, you know about the human emperor's palace? Yin Fengboi could not help but ask when he saw the shock in Nye Tian's heart. The human emperor's palace was an extremely ancient and mysterious organization. No one knew when it was established or how long it had existed. Even now, very few people in the all-heaven sacred world knew about the human emperor's palace. Although Nye Tian was talented at such a young age, his strength was far from the top. Could he have had dealings with the human emperor's palace? I don't just know about it. Nye Tian's eyes darkened. He did not want to hide anything and simply recounted his experience in the Yellow Springs sacred ground. I never thought that the organization would actually exist. It was Yin Fengboi's turn to be shocked after hearing Nye Tian's story. Although he had mentioned the human emperor's palace, he had only heard of it and did not think that such a powerful organization could exist for so long in an almost invisible manner. However, what Nye Tian said had undoubtedly confirmed the existence of the human emperor's palace. According to what I know, the human emperor's palace is the most powerful organization that has ever existed in the all-heaven sacred world. Nye Tian's eyes lit up. Everyone thinks that the Heaven Dao Sacred Pavilion is the largest organization in the all-heaven sacred world and rules over the entire all-heaven. However, the Heaven Dao Sacred Pavilion is also controlled by the human emperor's palace. Even the 5 academies and many top clans are under the human emperor's palace's control. The human emperor's palace. Yin Fengboi's eyes darkened as if they were burning with flames. If the human emperor's palace really exists, then the master of the human emperor's palace, Yu Tsangqiong, is real too? Yes. Nye Tian nodded solemnly but did not reveal what happened between him and Yu Tsangqiong. Instead, he said, "From what I know, Yu Tsangqiong was the human emperor of the human emperor palace a long time ago. The current human emperor is called Mu Jioga and he is known as the #1 cultivator in the universe. I don't think he's the strongest in the all heavens." Yin Feng, however, sneered and said, "Not to mention the others, just those from the Li clan alone might not be weaker than a Ren Huang." Nye Tian smiled. He could tell that Yin Fengboi admired the strength of the Li clan very much. He said, "Back then at the Yellow Springs Holy Land, human sovereign Mu Jioga's real body did not descend. It was only a doppelganger, yet it was not weaker than the sword devil Yin Fenghua. Although the Li clan is strong, I don't think there's anyone who can defeat Lord Sword Devil." Sword Demon. Yin Fengboi frowned when he heard Yin Fenghua's name, but he didn't deny Nye Tian's words. Nye Tian saw this scene and couldn't help but think, "Looks like my brother Sword Devil isn't very well liked in the Yin Feng clan." In fact, he was being tactful with his words. Back at the Yellow Springs Holy Land, the doppelganger of the Ren Huang almost had the strength to crush Yin Fenghua. I admit that the current Ren Huang is indeed strong, but compared to Yu Tsangqiong of the past, he is still far from it. Yin Fengboi was silent for a while before he suddenly said, "Why do you say so?" Nye Tian didn't want Yin Fengboi to be antagonistic, so he asked with a smile. Yu Tsangqiong was able to defeat the 3 great founding Li after they merged. His strength has already surpassed all the martial artists of the past. Yin Fengboi's gaze was firm as he said solemnly. Nye Tian nodded and didn't argue any further. He wasn't sure how strong the 3 great founding Li were, but he had some understanding of Yu Tsangqiong. Yu Tsangqiong was once a Ren Huang, and no one knew how long he had existed. Even Di Kashu and Demon God Qi had once bowed to him, which was enough to prove his strength. Yu Tsangqiong must have paid a great price to defeat the 3 great founding Li of the primitive emperor. Therefore, Nye Tian speculated that the primitive emperor should be at the same level as Yu Tsangqiong. Nye Tian asked Ergojin to make arrangements for Yin Fengboi and Bing Yinger before he returned to Qinchin Peak. Where did Devil's Knight and Senior Ling Xuang go? In the room, Nye Tian felt uneasy. What happened in the past few days made him feel a greater sense of crisis. On the surface, the Fengtian sect seemed normal. However, Nye Tian had a feeling that he was in a precarious situation. Not to mention the internal affairs of the Fengtian sect, the battle between him and Devil's Knight's Beacon Emperor, just the pressure from the outside world was enough to make him feel hopeless. Because the sky beacon selection had attracted too many forces from the outside, this was a huge invisible pressure on the Fengtian sect. Moreover, on the surface there were the Gia sect, the Four-Sect Alliance, the Sacred Religion, and the other local forces of the sacred world of 7 cultivators who were eyeing the Fengtian sect, causing the Fengtian sect to be in a very difficult situation. What was even worse was that the Abyss Assassin had appeared and even caused a massacre in the Fengtian sect, directly killing over 10,000 people. The foreign and local forces were only putting pressure on the Fengtian sect, while the Abyss Assassin was like a sharp blade that directly stabbed into the sect, causing the entire sect to suffer heavy losses. And now, the Li clan had appeared, causing Nye Tian to feel an invisible pressure and suffocation. Vaguely, he felt that everything was connected in some way. But not only was he unable to link everything together, it was even becoming more and more chaotic. With the current situation, I can only take it one step at a time. After a long time, Nye Tian sighed and no longer bothered himself. He then entered a state of cultivation. In the next few days, other than going to the sky beacon selection every day and occasionally sparring with Yin Feng, Bo Yi and Tang 13, Nye Tian had been cultivating. He wanted to make a breakthrough as soon as possible in order to deal with the upcoming unknown crisis. Fortunately, the 100 Springs Peak was very peaceful these days. After the Abyss Assassin was killed by Bing Ji once, he did not appear again. Sir Beacon Emperor, Sect Master Gu Ling invites you to come over. 5 days later, just as Nye Tian came out of his room, he saw Shin Yunhe rushing over and shouting, "N." Seeing Shin Yunhe's flustered appearance, Nye Tian did not ask much. He agreed and rushed to Wuchi Peak where Gu Ling Wuchi was. At the same time, in the main hall of Wuchi Peak, Gu Ling Wuchi stroked his beard and paced back and forth in the hall, looking very anxious. The beacon's emperor and leader Ling Shuang are not back yet. What should we do? Gu Ling Wuchi frowned as he mumbled to himself. Gu Ling, what's going on? At this moment, a voice was heard. Then, a figure stepped into the hall. It was Qing Qi. Let's wait for Nye Tian to come. Gu Ling Wuchi glanced at Qing Qi and sighed. Qing Qi frowned, feeling uneasy. He and Gu Ling Wuchi were best friends and had known each other for hundreds of thousands of years. He knew that Gu Ling Wuchi was a calm person. Why was he so anxious today? Chapter 45:12. In the hall of Wuchi Peak, Gu Ling Wuji was restless. Qing Qi felt strange, but there was nothing he could do. He could only wait for Nye Tian's arrival. Not long after, 2 figures hurried in from outside the hall. They were Nye Tian and Shin Yunhe. Nye Tian. Gu Ling Wuji's anxious eyes lit up when he saw Nye Tian's arrival, like a drowning man suddenly grabbing onto a life-saving straw. Senior Gu Ling, what happened? Seeing Gu Ling Wuji's restless expression, Nye Tian's heart sank and he asked with a frown. Gu Ling Wuji had always been calm and opinionated. He never panicked when something happened. Based on his current state, something big must have happened. Sigh. Gu Ling Wuji sighed and said, "The beacon's emperor and sect leader Ling haven't returned yet. Where did they go?" Nye Tian's eyes darkened and he asked. He had asked Gu Ling Wuji before, but the latter only declined perfunctorily and did not say anything. Looking at Gu Ling Wuji's current state, it seemed that Devil's Knight and Ling Shuang Wuchen had gone to an extremely dangerous place and had yet to return. Something must have happened to them. They went underground. Gu Ling Wuji paused and pointed to the ground. Underground? Both Nye Tian and Qing Qi had confused expressions on their faces, as they didn't understand what Gu Ling Wuji meant. Underground, they went to the underground beacon vein of the Fengtian sect. Gu Ling Wuji took a deep breath and said, "Underground beacon vein?" Nye Tian and Qing Qi went blank once again, confusion filling their faces. The Fengtian sect is located in the Heaven Beacon mountain range. The entire sect's 720 peaks are built according to a specific formation theory. They are connected from head to tail and communicate with each other, forming the Heaven Beacon Formation. Gu Ling Wuji nodded and said, however, the core of the Heaven Beacon Formation is not in the various peaks, but in the beacon vein of the Heaven Beacon mountain range. Gu Ling, according to what you said, the underground beacon vein should be where the mountain base of the Heaven Beacon mountain range converges, right? It should also be a type of earth vein, right? Qing Qi was, after all, a formation Dao expert. He immediately understood what Gu Ling Wuji meant and said in a deep voice, yes. Gu Ling Wuji nodded and said, the Sky Beacon Grand Formation is amazing. It is not an exaggeration to say that the entire formation has turned the entire Sky Beacon mountain range into a formation giant. Unfortunately, the runes of the Sky Beacon Formation are extremely complicated. It's not easy to activate it. Devil's Knight and sect leader Ling entered the underground beacon vein to activate the Sky Beacon Formation? Nie Tian didn't know much about formations, so he didn't understand much. However, he still heard the main point. His eyes darkened as he asked. No wonder Devil's Knight and Ling Shuang Wuchen disappeared at the same time. It turned out that it was to activate the Sky Beacon Formation. Nie Tian was well aware of how terrifying the Heavenly Beacon Formation was. It was impossible to find a second formation as huge as the Sky Beacon Formation in the entire all-heaven sacred world. Once the Sky Beacon Formation was activated, the Fengtian sect would be able to resist any danger. However, why did Devil's Knight and Ling Shuang Wuchen want to activate the Sky Beacon Formation? Could it be that they discovered a danger that could destroy the Fengtian sect? Yes. Gu Ling Wuji looked at Nie Tian with a burning gaze and nodded. The beacon's emperor said that the activation of the Sky Beacon Formation is the key to the survival of the Fengtian sect. Why? Nie Tian's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. In his opinion, although the Fengtian sect was facing many threats, it was not a matter of life and death. Unless Devil's Knight smelled something. The people from the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion are here. Gu Ling Wuji's eyes narrowed. He seemed a little panicked, but he still said it. The Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion. Nie Tian's expression changed when he heard the name. His eyes were burning with anger. The Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion was the head of the All-Heaven Sacred Pavilion, but in reality, it was the puppet of the Human Emperor's palace. They had helped the Human Emperor's palace eliminate many potential threats. Dong Wang Zhengrong and Rui Qianyu were all targets that the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion wanted to get rid of. Even Nie Tian was on the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion's must-kill list. Nie Tian had hoped that the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion would not interfere with the Fengtian sect's matters. Now it seemed that it was just his wishful thinking. He could only hope that the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion was the only one interfering, and not the Human Emperor's palace. Devil's Knight and sect leader Ling want to use the Sky Beacon Formation to fight against the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion? At this moment Qing Qi asked. Gu Ling Wuji looked over and nodded. The Fengtian sect is too weak now. It's impossible for them to fight against the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion. They can only gamble with the Sky Beacon Formation. Qing Qi frowned. The Sky Beacon selection has already alarmed the all-heaven sacred world. No matter how arrogant the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion is, it's impossible for them to exterminate the Fengtian sect in front of everyone, right? No matter how ruthless the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion was, they still had to protect the mask that they created themselves. If the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion exterminated the Fengtian sect for no reason, what would the people of the all-heaven sacred world think? Currently, the Heavenly Dao Sacred Pavilion doesn't show any signs of interfering. However, if the Sky Beacon selection goes too smoothly, they might interfere forcefully. Gu Ling Wuji glanced at Qing Qi and said solemnly. Qing Qi's expression changed. He didn't know what to say. The hall fell into dead silence. The atmosphere was oppressive. How long have Devil's Knight and sect leader Ling been gone? Nie Tian asked after a while. Not long after you went to the eternal abyss, the two of them entered the underground beacon's vein. Guling Wuji took a deep breath and tried his best to remain calm. He said, before the beacon's emperor left, he told me that if they didn't return by the end of the Sky Beacon selection, the martial selection and the final selection would be carried out at the Sixyang Peak. Carried to the Sixyang Peak? Nie Tian frowned. He was confused. The Sixyang Peak was the venue that he and Devil's Night had decided on. It was to take advantage of the Sixyang Peak's unique geographical advantage to prevent any possible accidents. Why did Devil's Night want to move the martial selection to the Sixyang Peak? Did he foresee that something unexpected would happen during the martial selection? Yes. Guling Wuji looked at Nie Tian and nodded heavily. He said, the Sixyang Peak is covered by the fiery sun cloud. Even if something happens, we can control it in time. Nie Tian nodded slightly to show that he understood Devil's Night's concerns. However, his expression did not look good. He said, the entire process of the Sky Beacon selection has already been notified. Will they agree if we suddenly change the venue? That's what I'm worried about too. Guling Wuji's eyes darkened. He said, there are countless pairs of eyes watching the Sky Beacon selection and they can't wait for us to make any mistakes. If we suddenly change the venue, I'm afraid we'll be used by people with ulterior motives. If that happens, we'll be in trouble. After saying that, Guling Wuji looked at Nie Tian. Since Devil's Night and Ling Shuang Wuchen were not around, Nie Tian could only make the decision for such a big matter. Just in case, let's do as Devil's Night said. Nie Tian was silent for a long time before he finally opened his mouth and said in a deep voice, change the location of the martial selection and move it to Sixyang Peak. Chapter 45:13. New 8111 net. The next day, Sky Beacon Square. Tens of thousands of clouds and mud, the tide of people surging. The preliminaries of the Sky Beacon selection had ended, and today was the day of the martial selection. At this moment, not only was the plaza filled with people, but even the surrounding 9-story pavilions were filled with people. The crowd on the square was clearly divided into an inner circle and an outer circle. During the preliminaries, more than 1 million martial artists participated in the Sky Beacon Road, but less than 100,000 passed in the end. The cultivators in the inner circle were those who had passed the Sky Beacon Road. The ones in the outer circle were those who had failed. The entire square was in an uproar. Everyone was extremely excited as they discussed among themselves. Originally, there were close to 100,000 warriors in the inner circle who would participate in the martial selection next. After the martial selection would be the final selection. However, the Fengtian sect had suddenly announced that the martial arts selection and the final selection would be combined into one and would be held at the Sixyang Peak. The preliminary selection, the martial selection, and the final selection. This 3-step selection plan was proposed by the Fengtian sect. Why did it suddenly change? Aren't they going back on their words? The Fengtian sect expanded the Sky Beacon selection and shocked the Saints' world. Are you going to go back on your word now? No matter what, the Fengtian sect is also a large sect. How could they do something so capricious? This is too much. If the Fengtian sect cannot give us a satisfactory answer, we will never agree to the unification of the martial selection. Everyone's emotions were restless, and some of the more radical ones directly showed their unyielding attitude. Guling Wuji stood in the pavilion on the 9th floor. Seeing the strong opposition from the crowd, he could only look at Nie Tian helplessly. Nie Tian nodded slightly, indicating for Guling Wuji not to panic. He stepped forward and said loudly, I am the Fengtian sect's Beacon Emperor Nie Tian. Everyone, please be quiet for a moment. His voice was not loud, but it had a deafening effect. Everyone present heard it clearly. The 1 million people in the square actually quieted down. It is indeed wrong of the Fengtian sect to change the selection at the last minute. On behalf of the Fengtian sect, I hereby apologize to everyone. With that, Nye Tian bowed slightly, apologizing to everyone present. Gu Ling Wuji's expression changed when he saw Nye Tian's reaction. In any case, Nye Tian was the beacon emperor of the Fengtian sect. How could he lower his head and admit his mistake in public? However, he did not say anything. After all, this matter was of great importance, and he could not afford to make any mistakes. Seeing Nye Tian bow and apologize, not only did the crowd not calm down, they became even more agitated. The Fengtian sect is about to change its mind. Does this beacon emperor think that just bowing and apologizing is enough? If apologies were useful, the world would have long been at peace. How is this beacon emperor apologizing? He's clearly treating us like fools. As the crowd spoke, they looked at Nye Tian with unfriendly gazes. Nye Tian frowned and smiled bitterly in his heart. He did not expect his apology to be wrong. This was human nature. When someone thinks that you are wrong, even your breathing is evil. Everyone. Nye Tian's gaze darkened. He glanced at the crowd and said loudly, I understand your anger, but please remember that this is the Fengtian sect. You are participating in the Sky Beacon selection. As the leader of the Fengtian sect, I am responsible for the entire sect and the Sky Beacon selection. If you find the combination of the martial selection and the final selection unacceptable, you can withdraw from the Sky Beacon selection. Withdraw. As soon as Nye Tian's voice fell, it immediately caused a wave of exclamations from the audience. Everyone's expression changed at the same time. What is this beacon emperor saying? He wants us to withdraw from the Sky Beacon selection? Isn't he messing with us? He wants us to come and go as he pleases. What does he think we are? A dog? I'm from another sacred realm. We've already passed the preliminary selection, yet he wants me to leave. Does he think I'm a pushover? That's right. Do you think we can't beat a mere Fengtian sect even if we work together? If we don't settle this perfectly today, I'll tear down the Fengtian sect. At this moment, everyone's anger had turned into rage. They did not care about their feelings at all and directly threatened. Gu Ling Wuji's expression changed, but he could not do anything. Nye Tian merely furrowed his brows and didn't show much of a reaction. He knew that the crowd would object, but he did not expect it to be so intense. Everyone, please be quiet. After a while, when the crowd had calmed down, Nye Tian spoke. It must be tiring for you to come to the Fengtian sect. I will not let you leave empty-handed. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd became noisy again. What is the beacon emperor going to give us? I've long heard that the Fengtian sect is in decline and the sect is in ruins. Does the beacon emperor have anything else to offer? It seems that the Fengtian sect has quite a number of gates. Why don't the beacon emperor give each of us a gate? Almost everyone had a provocative attitude. Obviously, they did not take Nye Tian's words to heart. Most of them were martial artists with some background, so they naturally would not be interested in ordinary things. However, there were more than 1 million people present. Even if Nye Tian wanted to give something good, he had to be able to afford it. Therefore, everyone thought that the things that Nye Tian was going to give would definitely be useless and not worth mentioning. However, Nye Tian's lips twitched and he smiled faintly. Naturally, he knew what the crowd was thinking. However, since he dared to say this, he was confident that the things that he was going to give would be tempting to everyone. Everyone, this emperor knows why all of you came to the Fengtian sect, so I also know what you need. After a while, Nye Tian spoke again. The Fengtian sect can barely be considered a top sect in the sacred world of 7 cultivators. However, in the sacred world of all heavens, it's a completely mediocre sect. All of you naturally did not come to the Fengtian sect for the strength of the Fengtian sect, nor is it for the prosperity of the Fengtian sect. What all of you seek is simply a lifeline. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd magically quietened down. Nye Tion's words were not harsh, but they were what they were thinking. The sky beacon selection shook the entire sacred world of all heavens. Its grandeur was even comparable to the recruitment of the 5 academies. The reason for this was the word lifeline. The Fengtian sect was not strong, but it had an extremely attractive advantage: the cultivation of one's destiny. Even those who did not know about the Fengtian sect knew that the Fengtian sect was a sect that specialized in cultivating one's destiny. Although it was not necessary for a cultivator to cultivate their destiny, it was still a fatal temptation. The most important thing in cultivating one's destiny was to awaken one's lifeline. Once one's lifeline was awakened, a cultivator's life force would improve qualitatively. Even their lifespan would be much longer than cultivators of the same level. Therefore, although not all of the cultivators present were here for their lifelines, most of them were here for their lifelines. Not only did Nye Tian say what was on everyone's mind, but it also aroused their curiosity. Could it be that Nye Tian was going to give them their lifelines? Mobile phone me. Omno Advertising Allowed 81 Zong Wengxia Showang. Chapter 45:14. As soon as Nye Tian finished his words, the warriors in the square immediately became interested. Some were scornful, some were sneering, but most of them were excited. From what Nye Tian said, it seemed like he wanted to give them their lifelines. The importance of a lifeline to a warrior was self-evident. To any warrior, there was a qualitative difference between having a lifeline and not having a lifeline. However, a lifeline had always been obtained through hard work. How could it be given away so easily? Everyone was curious. What was Nye Tian up to? Gu Ling Wuji frowned when he heard Nye Tian's words. He was very nervous. He hadn't expected that Nye Tian would finally say those words. Last night, Nye Tian, Gu Ling Wuji, Xin Yunhe, Fan Zhong, and the rest discussed the sky beacon selection for the entire night. They all knew that it was impossible for the crowd to accept the combination of the martial selection and the final selection. Gu Ling Wuqi and the others proposed to give all the participants a gift as compensation. However, the awkward thing was that the Fengtian sect had been in decline for a long time and did not have anything to offer. In the end, it was Fan Zhong who suggested that Nye Tian help everyone awaken their lifelines. He had seen Nye Tian repair Wen Luan's lifeline with his own eyes. His method was unparalleled. However, no matter how strong Nye Tian was, it was easy for him to repair one lifeline. How could he help 1,000,000 people awaken their lifelines? Although Fan Zhong had suggested his idea, it would consume a lot of Nye Tian's lifeline and might even endanger his life. Therefore, everyone regarded this as a backup plan and would not use it unless it was absolutely necessary. However, Nye Tian proposed it in front of everyone. It was obvious that he was going to use this plan. Gu Ling Wuji knew that Nye Tian was forced to do this for the sake of the Fengtian sect. However, he was still worried. Would Nye Tian be able to bear it? Everyone, what this emperor is going to give you is your lifelines. After a long while, the crowd finally quietened down. Nye Tian's lips curled into a smile as he spoke. His words were like a clap of thunder exploding in everyone's ears. Did I hear that right? Lord Fengtian wants to give us our lifelines. Is this guy joking? Lifelines are related to a warrior's lifespan. It's not an object. How can he give it to us? This Beacon King is quite arrogant despite his young age. There are more than 1,000,000 cultivators here, yet he wants to give away their lives. Is he stupid or does he think we are? Even though everyone had expected this, they were still shocked when Nye Tian told them about his lifeline. Most of them didn't believe it. Nye Tian had long since expected such a reaction from the crowd, so he didn't explain further. Instead, he said, "Everyone, you can doubt my words, but I won't change my promise. If I were to give each of you a lifeline, would you be satisfied with such compensation?" His words were calm, but they were full of confidence. Nye Tian seemed to have a card up his sleeve, so he had a fearless attitude. "Lord Beacon Emperor, aren't you afraid that you'll hurt your tongue by saying that?" Someone sneered and shouted. "How would you know? Lord Beacon Emperor is treating us like fools." Someone went even further and mocked him directly. Nie Tian frowned slightly. His eyes emitted a strange cold light as he said in a deep voice, "This emperor is asking you. Are you satisfied with such compensation?" His cold gaze intimidated everyone present. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines, and many people couldn't help but shiver. Nie Tian's eyes were too terrifying. They were like an endless abyss that sent chills down people's spines. At this moment, a figure soared into the sky from the square. His aura was like a raging wave. It was extremely shocking. Nie Tian could not help but frown when he saw that person. He vaguely remembered that the person was called Fang Jin. He was a genius cultivator from the Southern Brilliance Sacred World, a top-notch sacred world. He had easily reached the 9th floor of the Behemoth Sky Road. "Lord Beacon Emperor, I'm Fang Jin from the Southern Brilliance Sacred World's Dubhe Fang clan." Fang Jin cupped his fists at Nie Tian and smirked. He said proudly, "I represent the participants from the Southern Brilliance Sacred World to speak to Lord Beacon Emperor." His voice was not loud, but it made all the cultivators in the square fall silent. The Southern Brilliance Sacred World was a top-notch sacred world, and the Dubhe Fang clan was a top-notch family in the Southern Brilliance Sacred World. They were one of the 4 great alchemy families in the All-Heaven Sacred World. Fang Jin himself was a genius. He had already reached the 9th layer Heavenly Tribulation at such a young age, and he was also a 5th layer Divine Alchemy Master. He had a bright future ahead of him. It was obvious that Fang Jin had a high status among the cultivators. His words carried a lot of weight. "Oh? What are you trying to say?" Nie Tian looked at Fang Jin and smiled. "If Lord Beacon Emperor can really help us awaken our lifelines, we will naturally be happy. We can also accept the merging of the martial selection and the final selection." Fang Jin had a smile on his face, but his eyes were slightly cold. He suddenly raised his voice and said, "But what if Lord Beacon Emperor can't fulfill his promise? As the master of the Fengtian sect, I will naturally be responsible for my words." Nie Tian smiled and said, "If I can't fulfill my promise, the Behemoth Sky selection will proceed as usual. Moreover, every participant will be given a 5th layer Divine Alchemy pill. What do you think? Is Lord Beacon Emperor serious?" Fang Jin's eyes lit up when he heard Nie Tian's words, and he exclaimed in surprise. It was already extremely difficult for a cultivator to increase their strength after entering the Sage realm. It would be relatively easier if they had the help of a Divine Alchemy pill. However, it was very difficult to refine a Divine Alchemy pill, and there was a shortage of sacred materials in the All-Heaven Sacred World in recent years. As a result, Divine Alchemy pills were extremely expensive, and not everyone could afford them. Nie Tian actually proposed to compensate every participant with a 5th layer Divine Alchemy pill. That was too ridiculous. Even the Heavenly Tao Sacred Pavilion might not be able to produce more than 1,000,000 5th layer Divine Alchemy pills, let alone the Fengtian sect. "Do you think I'm joking in front of everyone?" Nie Tian smiled and replied indifferently. "All right." Fang Jin's eyes narrowed. He looked down and said loudly, "Everyone, since Lord Beacon Emperor is so sincere, I would like to suggest that we believe in Lord Beacon Emperor's promise. What do you think?" As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's eyes lit up. Fang Jin is right. Lord Beacon Emperor must be very confident to make such a promise. That's right. Even if Lord Beacon Emperor can't do it, we can still get a 5th layer Divine Alchemy pill. Why not? Compared to the lifeline, I want the 5th layer Divine Alchemy pill more. I've been stuck at the 9th level of the Heavenly Mandate realm for a long time. I'm just waiting for an opportunity to make a breakthrough." Everyone discussed among themselves. They were all very satisfied with Nie Tian's promise. However, standing behind Nie Tian, Gu Lingwuji, Shen Yunhe, and the others all had pale faces, which couldn't be more unsightly. Could Nie Tian really do it to awaken the lifeline of more than 1,000,000 people? Chapter 45:15. Gu Lingwuji and Shen Yunhe were pale as a sheet. It was easy to imagine how flustered they were. It wasn't that they didn't believe in Nie Tian, but what Nie Tian wanted to do was too unbelievable. Awakening the Yuan meridians of over 1,000,000 people at the same time. Even Nie Tian, who possessed the ultimate secret of the martial destiny, the 10th lifeline, would not be able to do it, right? What was more serious was that Nie Tian had already promised that if he failed, he would give everyone a rank 5 saint pill. If that was really the case, the Fengtian sect would undoubtedly be doomed if Nie Tian failed. However, Nie Tian was extremely calm. He looked at the crowd with a smile, as if he had a card up his sleeve. At this moment, many gazes were focused on Nie Tian from the viewing pavilions around the square. This Beacon Emperor is quite bold despite his young age. He actually dared to make such a great promise. Nie Tian, the Beacon Emperor, is extremely talented. Even in the all-heaven sacred world, he's a rare existence. It's just a pity that he's still too young and impulsive. That's right. His words have planted the seeds of disaster for the Fengtian sect. The people in the viewing pavilions were the representatives of various sections. They had come to watch the Sky Beacon selection. Every single one of them could be considered an expert. Be it in terms of strength or experience, they were all top-notch. From their point of view, Nie Tian's previous actions were no different from digging his own grave. Although they did not know how to awaken a lifeline, they knew that it was extremely difficult. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so few cultivators who cultivated the martial destiny. As the Beacon Emperor of the Fengtian sect, Nie Tian should know better than anyone else how difficult it was to awaken a lifeline. However, he actually dared to say that he would awaken the lifelines of over 1,000,000 cultivators. In the eyes of everyone, this was an act of a madman. However, there were also many people who looked at Nie Tian in high spirits, obviously looking forward to the scene of Nie Tian making a fool of himself. The Beacon Emperor of the Fengtian sect. I was wondering who he was. Turns out he's just a brat with big words. At this moment, in a pavilion on the 8th floor, a pair of sinister eyes locked onto Nie Tian from afar, sneering in his heart. This was a green-robed elder. His stature was slightly shorter than an ordinary person's, but his aura was extremely powerful. He stood there with the air of a grandmaster. His name was Yen Tong, the vice-faction leader of Gia sect. The Gia sect and the Fengtian sect had always been enemies. Recently, they even had a direct confrontation because of the Sky Beacon selection. During the Wind Demon's clan, the other vice-faction leader of Gia sect, Yen Qing, and the third elder had died in the hands of Devil's Knight and Nie Tian respectively. The relationship between the Gia sect and the Fengtian sect was irreconcilable and irreconcilable. However, regarding the Wind Demon's clan, both sides fought fairly after all, regardless of casualties. Therefore, the Gia sect could not directly declare war on the Fengtian sect. After the Sky Beacon selection began, the Gia sect still sent Yen Tong to watch the battles. The Fengtian sect treated the Gia sect politely and arranged for everyone from the Gia sect to a pavilion on the 8th floor. After the Sky Beacon selection began, everything was considered smooth. Even if Yen Tong wanted to obstruct it, he could not do anything. However, today, Nie Tian suddenly announced that he would combine the martial selection and the final selection, which directly angered everyone. This made Yen Tong extremely happy. Yen Tong knew that the opportunity to overthrow the Fengtian sect had arrived. This step of Nie Tian's was too big. It was completely courting his own destruction. Following this, as long as Nie Tian failed, then the Fengtian sect would be finished. Over 1,000,000 tier 5 holy pills, the Fengtian sect absolutely could not afford it. And the Fengtian sect could not possibly go back on their word to the world, right? As for Nye Tian succeeding, Yen Tong did not think about it at all. Because in his view, this was absolutely impossible. After a moment, Yen Tong looked towards the pavilion on the 8th and 9th floor. His gaze swept across several black-clothed martial artists and said with a cold smile, Nye Tian brat, looks like it's not just our Gia sect who wants to exterminate your Fengtian sect. Your Fengtian sect, just wait for your sect to be exterminated today. He had long noticed that there were still many people who similarly had deep enmity towards the Fengtian sect. This time, the Fengtian sect would not be able to escape this calamity. The corner of Yen Tong's mouth raised into a cold arc as if he could already see the scene of the Fengtian sect's destruction. At the same time, Nye Tian's figure moved. With a step, he directly leaped tens of thousands of meters into the sky. When everyone saw Nye Tian's figure move, their gazes immediately followed. They looked at the figure in the sky from afar, not knowing what Nye Tian was going to do. Nye Tian's gaze swept across the crowd, and the corner of his mouth raised into a faint smile. Then, his figure sank and landed on the high platform in the center of the sky beacon square. Heaven beacon flame, don't let me down. Nye Tianling stood on the high platform with his hands behind his back. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and then a pure flame gushed out from his palm. It was actually the heaven beacon flame. Everyone's expression changed when they saw this scene. That flame seems to be the heaven beacon flame. Previously, when the sky beacon selection began, the two beacon emperors of the Fengtian sect used it together. That's right, it's the heaven beacon flame. What is this guy trying to do? Is he going to use the heaven beacon flame to awaken our lifelines? The heaven beacon flame seems to be used to ignite the 9 heavens beacon flame. Is he going to borrow the power of the 9 heavens beacon flame? Many people recognized that the flame Nye Tian released was the heaven beacon flame, and they couldn't help but speculate. Their guesses were more or less correct. Nye Tian wanted to borrow the power of the 9 heavens beacon flame to help everyone awaken their lifelines. Although Nye Tian had the 10th lifeline, it was simply impossible to use the power of the 10th lifeline to awaken the lifelines of more than 1 million cultivators. He could only borrow the power of the 10th lifeline and merge it with the 9 heavens beacon flame to awaken the lifelines of more than 1 million cultivators at the same time. The heaven beacon flame flowed continuously in Nye Tian's palm like a nimble fire snake. At the same time, Nye Tian formed seals with both hands and used a strange footwork technique, causing the heaven beacon flame to dance wildly. In the blink of an eye, the heaven beacon flame covered an area on the high platform. Then, flames appeared one after another and turned into thousands of fire snakes that rushed into the sky. Boom! Then, the high platform on the ground broke out of the ground like an earth dragon. A natural aura spread out and turned into invisible ripples that covered the entire sky beacon square. Immediately, everyone felt an inexplicable restlessness in their bodies, giving them an inexplicable sense of excitement. According to Devil's Night, the heaven beacon flame was the fire origin seed at the beginning of creation, and it contained the purest power of the lifeline soul. Back then, Nye Tian and Devil's Night borrowed the power of the heaven beacon flame to break through to the heavenly perception realm. At the same time, the high platform continued to rise like a giant dragon that soared into the sky. Nye Tian stood on the high platform and looked at the dancing fire runes around him. He slowly closed his eyes and sat down with his legs crossed. Everyone's hearts beat inexplicably as they looked at Nye Tian on the high platform with confusion and excitement. Under the gaze of countless eyes, Nye Tian began to release the power of his lifelines while being surrounded by the 9 heavens beacon flame. He was burning his own lifelines to awaken the lifelines of everyone. Chapter 45:16. Burning his own life vein to awaken the life vein for everyone else. This was the promise that Nye Tian wanted to fulfill. Lord Beacon Emperor, Gu Ling Wuqi Shen Yunhe, and the others could tell what Nye Tian was doing. They were instantly moved and felt inexplicably sad. For the sake of the Feng Tian sect, Nye Tian had really given it his all. For the sake of the Feng Tian sect, Nye Tian had really given it his all. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, the 9 heavens flame beacons burst forth under the control of Nye Tian's immense life force. In the blink of an eye, the flames reached thousands of meters high and morphed into countless fiery tentacles that spread madly from the center of the square. The violent 9 heavens beacon fire was like countless fire dragons, attacking non-stop. Everywhere it passed, the flames evaporated. The entire sky beacon square seemed to have fallen into a sea of fire. Everyone in the square saw the fierce fire and their expressions changed. Many people actually had the thought of escaping. They weren't sure if the 9 heavens beacon fire that was like an angry dragon would really not hurt them. Unfortunately, the spread of the 9 heavens beacon fire was too fierce and instantly engulfed the entire sky beacon square. On the 9th floor of the observation pavilion, everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them and only reacted after a long time. What's going on? What did that kid do? How could he trigger such a violent 9 heavens beacon fire? Is this guy crazy? Don't tell me he wants to kill them? No. The 9 heavens beacon fire looks fierce, but the aura in the flames contains a strong life force. It should not cause any harm to the martial artist. Everyone discussed as they stared at the square, not daring to be careless. At this moment, the martial artists in the square surrounded by the flames all had a change of expression. The aura of the flames is so strange. There is a power in my body that is being stimulated by the flames as if it is about to awaken. I feel the same way. Don't tell me my life vein is about to awaken? The flames contain a strong life force that is stimulating the awakening of our life veins. Everyone, calm down and focus on sensing the power of the flames. The crowd discussed excitedly. Clearly, they had already felt the benefits of the 9 heaven beacon fire. At the same time, on the high platform, Nye Tian sat firmly like an old tree. The power of his life meridians surged like an endless river into the 9 heaven fire beacon. After obtaining the power of the 10th meridian, the 9 heavens beacon fire became even more ferocious. It gradually turned into a monstrous flame that seemed like it was going to burn the entire world. A group of cultivators sat cross-legged in the plaza below. They used their hearts to sense the aura of the 9th heaven beacon fire. Some of the bolder ones even started to absorb the 9th heaven beacon fire. Boom! The 9 heavens beacon fire entered their bodies. The impact in an instant was unbearable for their martial bodies. Many people vomited blood on the spot. Although the 9 heavens beacon fire contained an enormous amount of life origin energy, it also contained the power of fire. Once it entered one's body, the feeling of being burned by raging flames wasn't something that anyone could endure. Back then, even Nye Tian and Mo Yi had almost been unable to bear the soul-burning and bone-splitting pain caused by the flames that were like sharp blades. However, there were still many martial artists with strong minds who forcibly endured the pain of being burned by the raging flames. Lifeline. Not long after, the first batch of cultivators had a huge harvest and shouted in joy. Under the stimulation of the 9 heavens beacon fire, they actually awakened and nurtured their life meridians. Life meridians were something that countless cultivators dreamed of. How could they not be excited? When the others saw this scene, their eyes changed. They were bloodshot and their emotions were high. This was awakening their life meridians. With such a huge benefit, why would they be afraid of the burning pain? Under the stimulation of such a huge temptation, even the pampered young masters became excited and crazily absorbed the 9 heavens beacon fire. On the 9th floor of the observation pavilion, everyone's expression changed when they saw the scene in the plaza. Someone really awakened their life meridians. How is this possible? The life force contained in the 9 heavens beacon fire, could it be from Nye Tian? Look, there is a terrifying life force surging around Nye Tian's body. He is activating the power of the Nine Heavens beacon fire. Everyone quickly understood what was going on. They were shocked and looked at Nye Tian in disbelief. How strong must a cultivator's life meridians be to be able to activate the power of the Nine Heavens beacon fire to such an extent? Nye Tian's body really contained an unimaginable power. However, on the 9th floor of the observation pavilion, Gu Ling Wuji, Shen Yunhe, Qing Qi, and the rest had extremely ugly expressions. Of course, they could tell that Nye Tian was burning his life meridians. This was a very dangerous thing for him. When a cultivator with a fate chart burned their life meridians would be damaged, and they would need a long time to recover. In serious cases, their life meridians would be destroyed, and they would never be able to cultivate their fate charts again. At this moment, Nye Tian was burning his life meridians crazily. This was the only way he could maximize the power of the Nine Heavens beacon fire. If it was an ordinary cultivator with a fate chart, they would have died from depleting their life force. Nye Tian only managed to hold on until now because he had the 10th life meridian. Soon, as the power of the Nine Heavens beacon fire grew stronger, more cultivators awakened their life meridians. In the blink of an eye, in just half an hour, more than half of the cultivators had awakened their life meridians and became fate chart cultivators. However, there was an extremely small number of people with low fate chart talent. Back on the Beacon Sky Road, they stopped at the first 3 levels. It was too difficult for them to awaken their life meridians. Meanwhile, on the high platform, Nye Tian was drenched in sweat. His entire body was trembling and his face was frighteningly pale. Gu Ling Wuji looked at Nye Tian from afar and was extremely moved. He knew that if this continued, it would not take long for Nye Tian to die from depleting his life force. Gu Ling Sect Master, look at those people. They are too much. On the side, Shen Yunhe pointed at the people in the square below and roared like a lion. Those bastards! Gu Ling Wuji looked over and immediately understood what was going on. His expression changed immediately and he started cursing. It turned out that many cultivators on the square were still not satisfied after awakening their life meridians. They were still absorbing the power of the Nine Heavens beacon fire. It was obvious that they were not satisfied with just awakening their life meridians. They wanted to borrow the power of the Nine Heavens beacon fire to form their life patterns and even reach the fate realm. However, what they were absorbing was not the Nine Heavens beacon fire, but Nye Tian's life force. Gu Ling, we must stop these people. If they don't stop, Nye Tian's life force will be depleted before the rest of the people can awaken their life meridians. Qing Qi also noticed something and said in a deep voice. Gu Ling Wuji furrowed his brows and remained silent. How was he going to stop them? Did he have to chase these people who had awakened their life meridians out? Gu Ling Sect Master, please think of something. Are we going to watch Sir Beacon Emperor's life force be depleted and die? Shen Yunhe was also very anxious. He clenched his fists tightly and his eyes were bloodshot. When Nye Tian first came to the Fengtian sect, he had a huge conflict with Shen Yunhe. Now, Shen Yunhe had become Nye Tian's staunchest supporter. At this moment, Shen Yunhe was even willing to protect Nye Tian with his life.